Good morning. It's Sunday. It's a Sunday. And we're
It's
here.
weird.
It is. We've been gone for a couple weeks.
We've been gone for the past 2 weeks, but even before that, it felt like the 2 or 3 weeks before that, we were pushing shows to Mondays, and now it's like brought to you back to your regularly scheduled programming, which we're back, and that's all that matters.
We're here. Mars, how are you doing? How have you been? I know you had some fun stuff this week. What's up?
I did.
You want to talk about it? I know we were talking about it backstage. And
oh my god, I feel like I'm on the brink of death. It's funny. It was my birthday this week. My birthday was on Wednesday. So we did a lot of really fun stuff this weekend. My partner and I went to the Adult Swim Festival in Philly because he had bought me tickets to see Run the Jewels, which is like my favorite fucking group of all time. And I lost my mind. I got to hear Killer Mike talk about women's rights and say that I have the right to my bodily autonomy, which was fucking amazing. And then last night, I had all my friends together for a fun-filled time. And I legitimately, I'm going to be honest, the drinks were a little heavy. There was cake on the floor. I did not think I was going to be here this morning, but...
If we missed another week, there's a lot of stuff that happened in the news this week.
There's a lot of shit that happened.
That is like my villain origin story. But if Mars missed a week this week,
y'all could have blamed it all. Y'all could have blamed it all on me. It's fine. It's fine. You can totally blame it on me. But we're here, and that's what matters. We're here.
We're here.
I might be dying. My voice might be going in and out, but I'm here.
Yeah. Drink lots of water. That's like my adult like coming through is
drink water.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, excellent. Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. It was early this week. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to go ahead and I want to say hi to some of the people who are in the chat. So if you're here, you're watching, say hello. I want to put your name up on the screen. So first off, we've got our friend Bobby. Good morning. We've got our friend Victoria. Hello. Niall. Hello. And Stapled Spine Horror Zine. I want to go ahead while they're highlighted on the screen. I want to go ahead and say thank you to them because they hooked me up with some really cool stuff. This has been like weeks that they
wait a minute. What is that cover? I am obsessed.
Yeah.
What the so all right, little news time, story time.
Okay. So, impromptu.
So a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was hanging out with my partner and I was like, you know what I'm gonna watch? He's like, what? And I'm like, I want to watch Blade. He's never seen Blade. And I'm like, I just want to watch fucking Blade. I was like thinking in my head, I really just want to see the fucking, Blood Rager in the beginning with that fucking beat. That's all I want. And we literally get to that scene where he's like, yes. And we get to the scene where he's like, motherfucker, you out your damn mind. And I was like, all right, that's it. Movie's done. We don't have to watch the rest of it. We turned it off. No. I always get these like little vibes to like watch Blade, like seeing images or the GIF, and I'm like, I want to watch Blade, but only like the first 15 minutes of Blade. So that's my story time.
Well, thank you for that. This one was what, issue 11, and there's an interview with Rodney Barnes.
I need one of those.
Yeah.
Listen, I need one of those. Hook your girl up. I need one. Thank you.
So, they are located here in Portland, of course. So, because all the cool stuff happens here in Portland. So, anyways, they dropped them off at the local comic shop, and I got to pick them up. So, really happy for that. You should all check them out. So, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. So I just, like I said, I've had those for a couple weeks and I wanted to show them off, but we haven't been here, but we're back now.
We really haven't been here. So much has happened.
Yeah, so much has happened. We are different people now.
Different people.
I don't know about that. I'm always back on my bullshit. Hello, Carrie. Thank you for being here. That comic girl. And then hello to Scott. Popping in to say hi real quick. Miss So, hello. Let's see here. Everyone's just like wishing you a happy birthday. I love it. Let's see here. Hello. First time here for a live show. Thank you so much for being here,
exciting.
Friend.
We promise we won't be too violent, but spoiler alert, it's about to get violent in maybe 5 minutes.
The comic book industry was very violent. We didn't choose the
violent
violence
to us.
It was very violent to us.
Self-defense violence.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see how the day goes. So I think that's everyone. So okay, let's go ahead and get into it. We've got some news for the last 3 weeks. What's been happening, Mars?
You got some news. All right, so I don't think we're gonna start off semi-violent. We're not gonna go to full-fledged violence. So one of the things we missed was San Diego Comic-Con happened. There was a lot of stuff that came out of San Diego Comic-Con. DC showed up with literally absolutely nothing, and we'll probably talk about why more in a little bit. And then Marvel came through and announced that we were getting Secret Wars and the Kang Dynasty, and it's just insane how many Marvel properties it feels like are being pumped out at this moment, especially with all of the news that we've heard recently from not only creators not being paid proper royalties for the characters that are being introduced into these movies, but even worse so,
overworking their VFX people.
Their VFX people, the fact that they can't catch a break and it's literally breaking them down. Marvel, I feel like, listen, we love you, but we need you to pump the brakes just a little bit. However, the biggest thing to come out of San Diego Comic-Con, especially for us, was the Eisners. And for those of you that might not know, the Eisners are essentially the Oscars and the Grammys to comics. It is a huge fucking deal. And normally we go down and we break it category by category about the winners. Previously, a couple months ago when the Eisner's nominations were announced, we went through the categories and made our picks for those winners. And boy, were we wrong. However, there's a couple things about the Eisners that we really do want to highlight. And I think you have a big one that you want to talk about.
I do. And I think the biggest thing for me, y'all know, like I live in Portland, and like Portland is a big comic creator town. There's lots of really cool people who live here. Portland won pretty big, which I'm really excited about in many, many ways. So David F. Walker, Bitterroot continuing series with Chuck Brown, Sanford Green. They got a win for best continuing series. I believe that Wonder Woman Historia won for best pencils. So not necessarily Kelly Sue DeConnick, but Phil Jimenez won for that. So still a win. We also got David F. Walker also won for the Black Panther Party with Marcus Kwame. Who else? Douglas Wolk won for All of the Marvels, which was a really great book. And I'm probably forgetting a couple other Portland folk. But the biggest one that I want to highlight is my local comic book shop, Books with Pictures, who, like, y'all know I gush about the shop. Like, everyone who works there is amazing. Katie, the owner, just does such an incredible job curating such an incredible space to be. Like, literally, there was a signing a couple weeks ago, two actually. I got to meet Wyatt Kennedy, who did Bolero, favorite book of the year so far, which I'm just going to call it
the favorite book of the year.
Just going to call Bolero favorite book of the year. Got to hang out with Wyatt Kennedy at a book signing at Books with Pictures, and then another one the next night. And there's just big names in the comic book industry that are just hanging out there at Books with Pictures. So that's pretty great. But what I want to say is Books with Pictures won Eisner, The Spirit of the Retailer, which basically marks it as like the best shop in the world.
In the world, in the country, in the world. And it's crazy because it's like
international.
It's insane because when people talk about comic shops, you always hear people talking about things like Midtown Comics, which is one of the biggest shops in New York. You hear people talking about Third Eye Annapolis, which is one of my favorite stores and is another huge shop. But what makes Books with Pictures so special is the inclusivity of it. The fact that they make everybody welcome. The fact that it feels like Midtown Comics especially has kind of gone down as becoming just like a distributor for comics.
Yeah.
And less than, a comic book shop where it's like you can go, hang out, meet people, have a safe space. Yeah, they do creator signings, but again, it all feels like a capitalist grip on it. Whereas Books with Pictures, it's literally like hanging out with your friends and getting up and close and personal with these people that, you admire and love. And, listen, I want to be in Portland so bad just so I can visit Books with Pictures.
So when I went and at the Sleeping While Standing book signing, I got there a little bit late, but I text you and I'm like, yo, this creator is here, this creator is here, this creator is here, this creator is here. And then, like, what was it, like 2 or 3 days later, 2 days ago, Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad are like, yep, we're moving to Portland. And I'm like, Mars, when are you moving out here? So, but anyways, I think that this community is really great. I really love Books with Pictures. They put a lot of effort into not just making their shop a place where you can come and like buy back issues, which I think is what most shops are, but really just a really cool
it's a safe space for comics, and that's what's important right now in this day and age.
Yep. And not my favorite part, but they've got a little food truck. They've got they call it the short box food carts, like right behind it. And I get my weekly waffles there every Wednesday. So one of my favorite parts. So thank you. Congratulations. Y'all deserve everything because y'all are amazing. So, but that was the one, like if nothing else won, that was the one that I'm like, I feel personally invested in. But when it comes to the Eisners, there was a lot of thing.
There was a lot of stuff. Rom V was robbed. We're just going to come out and say it. Rom V
was robbed.
Rom V has been putting in absolute work into 2021 and in 2022, but I feel like 2021, you know, you had Many Deaths of Layla Starr, we had Swamp Thing, you know, he was on books left and right and really breaking the mold and the genre and the media. And, you know, Layla Starr was your favorite book last year. I was an idiot, jumped on the book late, but as soon as I read it, I was like, all right, now I totally get why it is book of the year. And I'm like, absolutely, all the Eisner should be given to Rom V. But instead, it felt like all the Eisners went to James Tiny Onion. And I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade, because I think that if you win an award, that's a big deal. But hear me out. All right, let's talk. Let's have a casual conversation. James Tiny Onion has been doing a lot of work. However, his biggest works were previously in 2019 and 2020. He was doing Department of Truth. He was doing something that's killing children. He had his work on Batman. You know, the man was left and right, kind of like how Rom V was for 2021. So to see James Tiny Onion win for works that weren't nearly as strong as the works that he had won for previously kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. Not only that, but it got me thinking. And I'm like, listen, I'm not here, again, trying to shit on anybody's parade. I'm not trying to limit anybody's chance of success. But it's like, part of me wants to consider the idea of limiting maybe, A, how many times somebody can be nominated for something, or maybe if you've won the previous year and you've swapped all the awards, especially for like Writer of the Year, Best of This, part of me wants to be like, should you be limited on, you know, your nomination for that category? And I'm not saying, you know, maybe I don't want to say the books can't be nominated, because I don't want to take credit away from the creators, right? I don't want to take credit away from the editors, the colorists, the artists, you name it. But maybe specifically if we're looking at Writer of the Year, should James Tiny Onion have been allowed to have been nominated, considering he won the previous year?
You know, as
it's weird. It's a weird conversation to have.
It is, because like you said, I am kind of here to rain on some parades. But when it comes to that, I really think that the choice was made by the people who get to vote on it. Like, ultimately there's 6 judges who get to vote on these types of things, and they voted, and I don't know what type of, qualifications that they have, but I really think that even if you take a look at James Tynion's work last year versus this year, I would say that the work that he was doing last year was stronger, and the work that he was doing this year wasn't quite as strong. And definitely when I think about someone who has been the powerhouse that is Rom V, like, this is only going to make me suggest the Many Deaths of Layla Starr even more. I know I talk about it all the time, but if I have to like stand in Books with Pictures and just force people to like pick it up until they have no more copies left, and then just like make sure everyone orders this book, I will, because Rom V deserved a lot more. Part of me wants
Tom Taylor was snubbed for Nightwing. Nightwing was nominated in several categories. It was like, I think it had the most nominations out of anything that was at the Eisners, and it got snubbed for everything. And that to me is insane, because while Many Deaths of Layla Starr was your book of the year last year, Nightwing was my book of the year last year. So it's like, do they just hate what we do?
They do. Like, they're watching our show right now, and they're like, who do we not pick So so here's my thing. I've got two suggestions on how to fix this problem. Either one, we reverse psychology them and be like, my favorite book of the year was a book by like Rick Remender, and then they won't nominate that. I fucking hate Rick Remender. I can't even say that it hurts me to even say that I like Rick Remender because I don't. Or two, I think that we need to have our own like Eisner Award categories. So if y'all are here for the like Casually Comics Sunday chat, like best comics of the year, I know we talk about our favorite comics anyways, but
one of the exciting things about the Eisners, though, that I did notice was they do have a category for comics journalism. And this year, Women Write About Comics took home that award, which was really exciting.
For a second, that's where I'm like, term limits, I don't know.
But hear me out. This is where I'm going to segue. So this is what I say to you. We're technically comic book journalists. Can we be nominated? Like, can we win an Eisner? Hear me out. Because comics are getting bigger and it feels like their presence on social media is getting bigger with YouTubers and Instagrammers and podcasts, you name it. We need a category for comics related podcasting and YouTube. And then we need to be nominated. I'm just thinking, do I just want to win an Eisner?
How cool would it be? Like, I would definitely like
that would be like that would my life could end at that point if I won an Eisner and I'm not even writing comic books. That's fine.
Could you imagine, like, I am unhinged on my best of days. Could you imagine if, like, I had anything to do with being, like, Eisner nominated? Not even win. I would literally put up here, Eisner fucking loser, even if it meant I got
Sabella has that. It's like, Christopher Sabella has it on his Twitter where he's like, 9-time Eisner loser or something like that. And I'm like, oh, but I'm like, also, you got nominated for an Eisner, so I feel like that alone.
100%. The unhingedness.
The unhingedness. But that was San Diego Comic-Con. That was the Eisners. But some other big stuff came out this week that this week that we all know that you've been waiting for us to talk about. So let's talk about it. This is the violence portion of the show. So anybody who does not want to be here, you have approximately 5 seconds to leave before I absolutely lose my mind and go Joker mode. Speaking of Joker, before we get into that, Lady Gaga is Harley Quinn now for Joker 2, and I don't like the Joker. This has been known on this show. I don't like the Joker. This is how you make me like the Joker and by extension Harley Quinn, is you cast Lady Gaga and I just see it go sicko mode. That's how it happens.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, it was announced that there's going to be a sequel to the Joker movie, like the standalone Joker movie. And Lady Gaga got cast as Harley Quinn, and I don't...
It's insane. Who did this?
I don't necessarily hate Lady Gaga, and I don't want to be those people that are like, who asked for this? Because who gives a shit? Just, you can make art, you can make a thing and not have anybody ask for it. But I also, I don't know, let me go into this thing with low expectations and I hopefully will love it. But I'm not sure how I feel about
one. If anything, it will be a fun time.
I'm not here for
a good time. I'm here for a fun time.
Yeah.
Whether that be fun bad or fun good, I don't care. But the real reason we're getting violent is Warner Brothers, I guess, has a new executive or some shit. They're merging over with Discovery. They're saying that women only watch HGTV or some bullshit. And along with all of that bullshit, I'm not going to get into all the details. You can credit a news source for that. But the Batgirl movie, which is completed, filmed, in post-production, has been shown to people, got canceled, and is not having any intention of being aired on HBO Max, which you would think the movie's done. Just throw it up on your free streaming website. Well, not your free streaming website, but it's free for you to put it up on your streaming service. Just pop it up there. Let us have a good time. Let us watch it. Except no, we're going to cancel it. Put it on our fucking taxes as a tax write-off. So that way nobody can ever fucking see this movie. And you have a Casually Comics villain origin story. What the actual fuck? So to kind of premise our SDCC talk, you know, as I established, Warner Brothers and DC bought absolutely nothing. They showed a trailer for Shazam and a trailer for Black Adam, which who asked for either of these two things to be made? And the whole time this is happening, I'm like, bro, we haven't seen shit for this Batgirl movie. I'm like, we got that one picture. Everybody lost their mind because it's the Burnside suit and it looks fucking good. They told us Michael Keaton was in the movie. They told us Brendan Fraser was in the movie. And I'm like, yo, I want to see a trailer for this movie. And SDC came and went, and there was no trailer. And now we know why.
Now we know why. And it really stinks because, for the longest time, it has felt like WB, DC, the DCEU has not had a plan for what they're doing. And their plan has basically been, let's try to be Marvel without having fun. Let's make these dark, gritty movies just for the sake of being dark, like literally dark. Like you can't even watch a fucking movie.
Except for the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad is the exception to the rule, which, by the way, happy 1 year anniversary to the best superhero movie ever fucking made.
But here's what I have to say is that the DC Entertainment Universe, their movie portion of like their enterprises, they said the reason why they're canceling Batwoman or that they're not showing Batwoman is because it doesn't align with their apparent new vision. Sorry, Batgirl. They canceled it because, and they're not going to show it because it doesn't align with how they want to do big blockbuster movies that they want. So DC, basically the only strategy that they've had has been to have these, to bank on characters like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, while yes, Suicide Squad has been the kind of like outlier in this. And the only success they had in that is because they brought someone like James Gunn, who basically did the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy over to DC. And it makes me so mad because the first Suicide Squad movie was fucking horrible.
The worst thing ever made.
I know we come on here just about every week and we talk about the movies and the things and the properties that we love and we don't love and that we hate, and we tend to like pick it apart. If you liked the first Suicide Squad movie, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't think that it was a very good movie, but that movie just wasn't great. Batman versus Superman got horrible reviews.
That movie was definitely not great.
So many of these movies got horrible reviews, yet Suicide Squad they banked on it and it still got a second chance. But a movie like Batgirl that features probably more diversity than and this is like bare minimum diversity is what I'm talking about, is now getting canceled, and that's not what you want to be. So I think that
the movie is done. The movie is done. Release the movie. I'm gonna be honest with you. Where's the comment? I gotta put it up here. The fact that, listen, there's people that are complaining, oh, it's Batgirl movie in the back. We're never gonna get to see the Batgirl. We're not gonna get to see the Burnside Batgirl outfit. Then you got people complaining, oh, well, Michael Keaton was Batman again. This comment right here, this is what I'm fucking mad about. Brendan Fraser is being fucking robbed, okay? This is the Brendan Fraser Renaissance, where we are bringing him back. We are celebrating him. He was so excited to be a part of this movie. They celebrated his motherfucking birthday on set with him in his dumbass Firefly costume, and now I don't get to see it? Are you kidding me? This is a Brendan Fraser stan account, by the way.
It is.
It's just bonkers. And I just keep getting angrier and angrier with it. And part of me was like, maybe they just said they were going to cancel it because they wanted to build hype around it. And maybe with them saying they're going to cancel it, and then maybe 2 weeks later, they're going to be like, oh, never mind. We've decided we're going to release it on HBO Max to garner hype. Would I've been mad, but I would have been able to still gotten to see it. And I'd rather see it from the comfort of my own home anyway. No big deal. But then the logistics came out and the lawyers came out, and the lawyers were confirming these details that no, this is a tax write-off. Because it is considered a tax write-off, this movie will never be able to see the light of day. So I need somebody to break into Warner Brothers, shove that hard drive up their ass, and release it to the internet.
Someone, what is it? Batgirl.2023.mp3 is going to be movie of the year.
Movie of the year. That's exactly what's going to happen. But I could talk about this whole shtick forever. It's ridiculous.
It sucks. I think it boils down to it sucks when people are like, well, we didn't want to see Batgirl anyways, or like people are celebrating that it's not getting done, or that it's not being released. And the fact that the Flash movie is supposedly either the I forget the beginning.
It's supposed to be the starting point of this new 10-year roadmap. At this point, I'm convinced, like the fact that they are letting a known motherfucking fugitive still star in their own movie. I'm convinced at this point the only reason they're releasing this movie is so that way Ezra Miller shows up to the premiere and the police will be there to be like, all right, we found you. That's the only reason this movie's still being released. I'm convinced. There's no way.
But then you can still okay, hear me out. Hashtag hear me out.
Hashtag hear me out.
Ezra Miller. Redemption arc. Get me the Batgirl movie.
Will that really absolve them of everything they did to the people of Hawaii?
It wouldn't. They're kind of
they literally held the island of Hawaii, the islands and the state of Hawaii hostage. Acting like it's their own goddamn Grand Theft Auto roadmap.
To be fair, the U.S. Navy did poison Hawaii's water, and you know, the U.S. Navy did that. So, Ezra Miller, less or worse than the U.S. Navy. Anyways, maybe we could make Ezra Miller part of a weird Suicide Squad thing where like they're a villain and they're doing bad things, but it's like, well, maybe we will take a couple years off your sentence. If you can, I don't think
that's how the real world works, but we'll try it. But there's one last piece of news that I want to touch on before we start talking about comics. Because again, we could do this Batgirl. We could make an entire show dedicated to this whole Batgirl fiasco and WB in the future of their whole streaming platform. But so C2E2 is this weekend. C2E2, one of the biggest conventions hosted in Chicago. It's huge. It's right up there with, maybe not up there with San Diego and New York, but it's up there with like Emerald City and Rose City. It's pretty big. So Chris Claremont, who is known for, I guess, essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, revolutionizing the X-Men and kind of making them what we know now. Okay, I'm right on the money with that. He had a spotlight panel this weekend. And there was a group that live tweeted the spotlight panel. And to say that it was a clusterfuck is a bit of an understatement. So I'm not going to go through everything because it's like a 50 tweet thread. But I will show up some of the highlights, which I thought were very, very funny to me, at least. So again, spotlight panel for Chris Claremont. You know, he's the man of the hour. Man of the hour showed up 20 minutes late, which, okay. I get it. You can do what you want. You can do what you want. It's fine. No big deal. But then apparently, old man grandpa Chris Claremont went off the fucking rails talking about how, you know, Gambit wasn't supposed to be the character that he was, that he was supposed to lead Kitty Pryde down a road to darkness.
Oh, and like seduce her.
And seduce Kitty Pryde and all this other fun, nasty stuff. He was talking about how much he hated Thor Love and Thunder, which, okay, it wasn't the most popular with people, but then started bashing Tessa Thompson, to which I say, fight me on the fucking street.
And the way that this is what I'm getting from the tweet. I obviously wasn't there. The only source I have is from these live tweets. I don't have a video or audio recording or anything, but I think specifically Chris Claremont said something along the lines of Tessa Thompson needs to go back to making a Men in Black movie. Excuse me, Persons in Black. And like,
it just doesn't make any sense. Then he starts going on talking about how the story he always wanted to do with Art Adams that Marvel would never approve. He's claiming Marvel would never approve it because they can't afford Art Adams. You know, he's talking about how Kitty Pryde would go off to become the cosmic space daughter of T'Challa and Storm. And not only that, which, okay, in figurative, maybe adoptive sense, cool, fine, whatever. No, Mr. Claremont went so far to be like, Kitty Pryde, the Jewish white girl of the X-Men, is going to become black, and we're going to race bend her black. But to make matters worse, once she's finished with this whole arc, she'll have to choose whether she wants to continue to be a black woman or go back to being a Jewish white girl. And I'm like, what planet do we live on that this is even remotely okay? And he kind of just goes on to talk about, you know, race is a touchy subject, and he can kind of that race is a touchy subject, and he can kind of get away with it and skirt the lines of basically being a fucking racist because he's an old British white guy. And I'm like, that's how colonism works, but that's not how the world works. And honestly, the moral of the story is Chris Claremont, when I met him, was an asshole. And I used to tell people that he was an asshole, but I'm like, people would tell me, no, he's great. He changed the X-Men forever. He gave us characters like Gambit. He did Days of Future Past. He changed the X-Men as we know it. But when I met that man 8 years ago, when I was first getting into the comics, and I was so excited to bring him my little comic because I was excited and I was new in it, and he looked me in the face and was telling me what an idiot I was because I didn't know what I was talking about, and I didn't realize that he wrote this book, but I wanted him to sign it just because he created the character. And it's like, hi, I don't like you, and you are now up here with the worst creators I've ever met, right next to Neil Adams and Frank Cho. Congratulations.
It's funny. I really don't have to. I don't have a personal. Anyways, I mean,
somebody collect Chris Claremont. That's all I'm saying.
Someone go get Chris Claremont. And I don't know, because I've heard that even on other like panels and stuff that he's done previously in the past, even moderators can't rein him in. But you know that there's still
I can't imagine being a moderator on that panel and just kind of going like this, because you know that you can't stop him.
How do you rein that in?
How do you rein that in? Other than, I mean, I feel like you could cut the mic, but I feel like somebody like Chris Claremont would just keep talking even after the mic has been cut.
Yeah, I'm sure Chris Claremont is still just talking. I'm sure Chris Claremont is still just like rambling somewhere, shuffling around.
He just never stopped.
And that's one thing that like makes me sad about this, because yes, I think that he did revolutionize a lot of things. He really changed the X-Men for the better, and had a lot to do with this. But does that absolve someone of it? No. Does it make it any less disappointing? Of course not. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like I honestly feel like this is just the beginning. Like, I feel like Chris Claremont is probably about to go on, like, I don't know, a tour, and just can you and Frank Miller just like go into a fucking home at this point and just talk about like how we need to make comics great again? Yeah.
It's weird because they're not quite, and I don't like using this word on this channel because I don't like inviting that type of negativity. It's not quite Comicsgate. Like when we talk about Frank Miller, Brian Azzarello, Chris Claremont, it's not Comicsgate because they're not even remotely close. But it's definitely this mentality of, I'm an old white man, partially stuck in my ways, still writing damsels in distress like they're in the 80s and 90s and can't break that mold. We need to come up with a new like name for this bunch of people.
I don't know. It's tough because like you said, it's not, they may not necessarily align themselves with this like specific group. But the sentiment is still kind of there, where it's like especially when I think about the heads of Image, right? When I think about Eric Larson and oh my goodness, like Rob Liefeld and all of them. And it's like, yes, you revolutionized comics in a way that I think was a stepping stone to where we are now in a very positive way.
But here's the thing, how many times are we going to revolutionize stuff? But I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. I'm saying comics, and by any extension, any form of media, it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. You're constantly going to have that new group of people that break the mold, break the barrier to kind of form it and shape it into what it's going to be. And then guess what? 10, 20, 30 years later, you're going to have another group of people that come forward, break the mold, reshape it into what it's going to be. It's constantly changing.
And I think that's a good thing, but I think those types of people are still stuck in how they revolutionized comic books 30, 40 years ago, but don't want to see the people who are revolutionizing comics now be successful because they're still like, I did it my way.
They're no longer getting the credit, I think. Yeah. And they're kind of being pushed to the side while these other people are being celebrated. And I think it's that mentality of, I was the A-list celebrity back in my day and now I'm not. I really think it's that mentality.
Well, I hope someone out there is kind enough to help Chris Claremont out with whatever the fuck he's going through right now. It's not like, he hasn't said anything that's like really damning, but I feel like it's there. I feel like he is
right close.
He's right on the edge of it.
It's really close. But that's all the news. Or no, I'm sorry, that's not all the news we have.
Shows and stuff.
There's two big shows that came out. I am so sorry. My brain is like dead. It's been 3 weeks. There's way too much to talk about. So there was 2 very, very big comic shows that came out this week, or in the past 2 weeks. The first one was a little book called Paper Girls, which debuted on Amazon Prime. And I know that I only watched the first episode. You only watched the first episode.
By now, I've watched, I think, up to the second or third episode.
Okay, JK, so I'm the only one that's behind. And I'm going to be honest, going off, and this might change. I know when we initially talked, we had very similar opinions, because at that point, we had only watched the first episode, so it's possible your opinions might have changed. I'm not having the most fun time with Paper Girls, and it's making me a little depressing, a little stressy, because I'll be honest, it feels like they threw everything at the fucking show. And that first episode, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm enjoying it. I'm like, it's literally right from the books, the dialogue, the vibe. It was a little dark in some areas, like physically dark. And I'm sick and tired of this trend where it's like, I physically can't see what's happening in your show. Help me. But I'm like, this is great. And then the episode ended and I'm like, wait a fucking second. That was the entire first volume, the first, 5 or 6 issues. I was like, that makes no fucking sense. And then I'm like reading the descriptions for all the episodes and I'm like, they really just crammed 30 issues into one season. And I'll be honest, I think it's the Brian K. Vaughan curse. Like, they didn't want to get the act.
So this is me saying this. I haven't finished it. So I can't tell you, but just from what I've watched from the first 2 or 3 episodes is that they, are making it. They haven't gone yet. I'm on 2 and partially through episode 3. They haven't gone full sci-fi yet, where they did in the books, where they go a little bit more. I don't want to ruin it, but they go heavy more into the sci-fi rather than just the street level,
level weirdness.
Street level weirdness, what's going on. They haven't gone the full-blown sci-fi yet, and that's what I'm waiting for. I still think this is a pretty fun adaptation. I fucking love the soundtrack. The
soundtrack's great.
It's incredible. But to your point, it is very dark visually. And the comic book, one of the things that I love about the comic book is Cliff Chiang's artwork, and forgive me because I can't think of the colorist off the top of my head, but the colors of the show need to be bright and vibrant and weird, and there's glimpses of it, but there's so many moments where 2 characters will just be sitting in a living room and I can barely see their faces. So I don't know if they just blew all of their budget before they got to the lighting, or the VFX.
And it's a shame because I feel Paper Girls and its story could easily become very generic, very just, sci-fi. Yeah, it's weird as hell, but it could easily become just another generic sci-fi book. The thing that made Paper Girls successful, and this is my opinion, was in the art, was in the coloring, because it brought a unique sense of style to its storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's really what drew people in. And we needed that with this show. We needed the bright colors, the pops of neon. We needed something. And unfortunately, when you don't have this color, it kind of confirms what was my suspicion and fear that, you know, on a surface, this could be a very generic story.
Yeah.
So,
And I do think, you know, because we were talking about this several weeks ago, several months ago, where we were like, Paper Girls is about to come out. We haven't really seen any type of advertisement for it. I do think that ultimately they are going to do the entire Paper Girls run in this one season. I'm okay with that because this Brian K. Vaughan curse, where like they did a season of
Y the Last Man.
Y the Last Man, and I think that was a season that could easily needed a second season, could have done the whole series, but just didn't. It didn't get renewed. And with Paper Girls, I think that I like it being contained within one season. I'm okay with that. But I think the main reason why we didn't see a lot of advertisement for it is because what came out 2 months ago, Stranger Things, and it didn't want to compete with Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to, because that is one of the curses of Paper Girls, is that it came out before Stranger Things, and it does get compared to Stranger Things. But ultimately became Stranger Things is a lot more successful and more well known.
Yeah. But there was another show that came out this week that I'm gonna let you take the floor with it. I've only watched one episode, and I have I've never read the book because I tried and I couldn't get through the first book. However, you are its like biggest fan. So what was the show and how do you feel about it?
Okay, so Sandman came out, and you know,
The Sandman?
The Sandman came out, and this book, for y'all who don't know, this book is like the book that got me into comics. Like, there would not be Comics Will Break Your Heart. There would not be Casually Comics. Like, it just wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't for Sandman, right? And this show has been in some development hell for over a decade now, where honestly I was afraid that it wasn't going to appear.
And then when it did appear, it's like, how successful will it be?
Exactly. And so even Neil Gaiman was like, I don't necessarily want to do a Sandman show. I would rather have nothing rather than have a bad. So you know how important this is to the creator himself. So anyways, this show finally, you know, was announced. Y'all, I know I'm rambling. I do that a lot. But what I have to say is this show, The Sandman, on Netflix is so fucking perfect. It is quite literally one of the most perfect adaptations.
And that seems to be the consensus, is that those that I can't speak on it because I'm not really read a comic, but that seems to be the consensus is those that have read the book and are fans of the book. Even my partner was saying it, and he's only read, you know, very little of it. He's like, it feels like Sandman.
It does, and there are perfect, like, hold up the page, hold it up to the screen. You can quite literally see this panel appear, and it's absolutely beautiful. Everything is so good with this story. There's even so the first season so far is mashing the first 2 books. It seems like maybe the first book and a half. Y'all, it's so good. So good. I don't know what else to say other than it's so good. The acting is incredible.
The acting is great. I would like to, I can't really give many thoughts on this other than it's good, but my only real tangible thought is, I would like to boink the Sandman. And then I was later corrected, and I was told, at one point through the episode, they call him Dream, and I'm like, that's his name? It's not the Sandman?
So his name is either... Dream, he is Dream of the Endless. So it doesn't get into this more into like the show. I mean, it kind of does, but there's the Endless, and it's Dream, Desire, Destiny, Destruction, Delirium, Death, and oh my God, Despair. So that's the sibling. There are these archetypes. And and Dream is the ruler of Dream, the
It's
Dream
exciting.
Country. Anyways, so
Wood boy.
yes,
10
his
out of 10.
name is either Dream or Morpheus or the Sandman, whatever. But yeah, Daddy Morpheus. He's
I'm excited.
skinny. Here's the thing: is that like skinny white boys aren't my thing unless
no, not at all.
Unless here's the thing: you're a tattooed skinny white boy, and then that is a very particular type. Like you can be like Eddie Munson.
For me, I think it's the voice. I think it's the voice for me. It's like, here's the thing. So we've established you tried to get me to read Sandman a year or two ago, and I struggled with it. Again, I'm not great with older comics. Neil Gaiman is very fucking wordy, very dense for me. I have a goldfish brain. We've established that. However, when I was reading the comic, that was kind of the voice that I heard. And so with my limited knowledge, I'm like, I'm kind of excited. So I've unfortunately only gotten to watch the first episode. It's been a very busy weekend for me. But I'm very excited to continue the Sandman. And I'm only hoping, I've heard they've already started working on the script for season 2 prior to even being renewed. So I'm hoping that this latches on because the production of it, everything about it just looks solid.
Everything is incredible. And as I was watching it, obviously I'm watching it with the news that Batgirl was canceled. And I was like, whoever made the decisions for everything to do with Sandman clearly needs to be in charge of whatever the fuck is going on at DC, because this show is beautiful. They did all the right things. Whoever, every single person, like they need to be doing the rest of the DCU stuff.
Absolutely.
That's
our take. That's a lot of. We're 47 minutes in and we haven't even started talking about comics. It's 3 weeks we're catching up on. So that means we have 3 weeks of comics, and I think it is that time, friendos. We need to talk about some comics. So, as always, we got to put something out in the chat for y'all. What do you want to hear us talk about? Do you want to hear us talk about DC? Do you want to hear us talk about indie? Which I'm gonna be honest, there's a lot of fucking indie books. Or do you want to hear us talk about Marvel? There's a lot. There's a little something for everyone this week.
There really is, and there's a lot of books. Like there was a lot of number ones that came out for
there was
pretty
a
much
lot of number ones
across the board.
There were a couple books that really fucking surprised me. Like,
oh my god, I know there's one in particular
surprised me
that I am just like, how the fuck was this one of the most memorable? Yeah,
it's crazy.
So far, we've got 1 vote for indie, 1 vote for DC. Someone come through and say Marvel. And
also, I don't want to alarm anybody, but Gail Simone retweeted our show saying that we were going live. And if you saw my face about 5 minutes earlier, that's because I looked at the notifications and I went. So Gail Simone, hear me out. Hashtag hear me out, Gail Simone, if you are listening. A, we have one of your books to talk about, but B, we love you very much and thank you for supporting 2 ladies that just want to talk about comics.
We love you. Come to Portland. I know you're in Oregon somewhere. Just come to Portland and let's talk comics. I'll treat you to waffles. Okay. It looks like there's 2 for DC.
2 for DC.
Is that what we're gonna do?
We can do DC. We can talk about DC.
So this is my DC stack. DC wins for variants. So do not be alarmed, my friends.
I don't think. Hold on. Let's pause on that because I don't think DC wins for variants. I think Poison Ivy won for variants.
They kind of did, but I didn't even read. Okay, so I'm just going to show off before we talk, I'm going to show off some of the cool variant covers that I got, because I got this. I didn't even read it. I didn't even get the A cover. I just really liked this homage cover for Harley Quinn.
For Harley's anniversary.
Yes. And then I did also get, because I hate Batman, but if you give me a Batman, I don't know, Thirst Trap Beach Day cover, I'm gonna buy it. But you're right. And I did get this Swamp Thing. Look at him.
It is a very cool cover. I do like that cover a lot. The Swamp Thing covers have been kind of insane.
They really have. Very, very good job. But you're right. Poison Ivy, 1, 2, 3. This last week for Poison Ivy, I got 3 different covers.
Poison Ivy has some of the most gorgeous covers right now. It's absolutely insane. I know you. Oh my god, that one is just chef. Whoever's on the editorial team that is selecting the variants right now, I just have to say you're doing the Lord's work. Like that Joshua Middleton. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, I don't even like this character, but that belongs in a museum. God damn it!
It really does.
So speaking of Poison Ivy, let's just talk about it. Poison Ivy number 3 came out this week.
It did.
G. Willow Wilson and Marcio. Fuck, I'm brain farting. You have the comic in front of you.
I do.
Marcio, it's not Marcio. Takari. Okay, there it is. I knew it had something to do with Ta, and I wanted to say Tamaki, and I'm like, no, that's not right. Yeah. So Poison Ivy number 3. This is the best book DC continues to put out. It is gay. It is emotional. It is beautiful. I really like the call out that Willow Wilson made to me specifically, where there's a panel where Ivy is like, I don't always think about plants, or I'm sorry, I don't always think about murder and death, but I do always think about buying plants, to which I'm like, fuck, that one hurts.
Yeah.
That's a little personal for me.
And so for those of you who are not reading Poison Ivy, basically what's going on is that Poison Ivy, Pam, she is going on this road trip across America, and she is spreading a like fungal disease.
A fungal disease that's basically supposed to bring the apocalypse on the world, that is going to rebirth the world in, not necessarily in her image, but in the way that she thinks the world should be, which is, you know, plants thriving, animals thriving, people not so much.
Which, I mean, I get it. We talked about it last month where, you know, we kind of, I think as millennials, maybe not necessarily millennials, but those that grew up with the character, we kind of have realized that she really was not the villain the entire time, that she was a hero, and that we all needed to trust and believe in her. And I love that for us. I love that for her. But in this particular issue, we learn that she's essentially dying, and that she's not going to be able to see the world as what she's lived in or what she's created. And I really like this book because right off the bat, and it feels like this is a running theme with each issue, is right off the bat, we kind of get thrown into the relationship of her and Harley Quinn and how much these two characters mean to each other. Oh. And it's really, really, it's beautiful. It's emotional. And I really just love, it's crazy because it's like 2 years ago with the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy miniseries that came out, there was all this uproar, and rightfully so, because, you know, you had this gay as hell comic all the way through, and then in the final issue, you essentially got friend zoned, where it was like Gail's just being pals. And, you know, DC for maybe the past 5 years have been skirting that line of like Harley Quinn and Ivy, you know, they're kind of gay, but no, they're just pals, and these are just girls that really care about one another. Will call them really good friends.
We call them really good friends, to which I call bullshit. But we have things like Poison Ivy right now, the DC Pride covers, Harley Quinn the animated series, which apparently season 3 opens up with a very explicit sex scene between these two characters, which I say good for them.
Everyone has been telling me to watch it, and I haven't been watching it because I'm so intimidated because I haven't watched season 1 and 2. Do I just need to watch season 3 for this explicit sex scene?
I think so.
I know the answer. I know the answer.
I haven't seen it, but I would say yes. It does not seem like the type of show that carries a long-running storyline. I feel like it's a very jump in, jump out type show.
Okay.
But I just really like that DC went from gals being pals to being like, fuck it. Y'all said that they were girlfriends, so I guess they're girlfriends now. And I love that.
Yeah. This
book is so fucking good.
Book is so good. And I don't know if one of my favorite parts. So in this book, in the first issue, Ivy is basically telling Harley, I need to leave, like breaks up with her essentially. But then the whole, like, every issue she's like reminiscing about like being with her and how much she misses
And she talks
her.
about how she misses her and all she wants is to be back with her. And I'm just like,
And y'all, and this is the second page, and like this fucking broke me. So she's reminiscing about being with Harley and how much she loves her. And honestly, like Harley, as chaotic as she is a safe space for Ivy, and Ivy is the same thing for Harley. So like there's so much trauma between them. I really hope that they get united. And well, anyways, there's this moment where Pam, Poison Ivy, is talking about Harley and says like, I want to forget everything that isn't you. And she says, you taste like the sap that rises in springtime.
Most
like
romantic
y'all,
shit I've ever heard in my life.
if I know that I love Swamp Thing, and that is 100% like a line that Swamp Thing would use, but if you want your lover to know that you love them, like that's the line. That's the
line
pickup
you use.
line. So anyways,
there it is.
If y'all need pickup lines, Poison Ivy is it. This book is so good. And what I really loved about this is that you did get to see Poison Ivy being a little bit more, I mean, of course she's vulnerable, but you get to see her interacting with humans in a way that she feels vulnerable, because she almost like kind of feels bad for what she's doing, but not really. But anyways, G. Willow Wilson, you are doing an incredible job. Marcio Takari, you are also doing a really good job.
It's crazy. I love it. Two books that I kind of want to just touch on briefly, because I feel like there's a point in time, especially with these long running ongoings, where it's like, what more can I say other than it's really good and I really like it? And that's how I feel particularly about one book, and that is Nightwing number 94. Again, Tom Taylor doing the Lord's work, Bruno Redondo doing the Lord's work, making Nightwing look like the just cherry on top of a fucking sundae. Love that man to death. It's a good book. I don't know what to tell y'all. I fucking love Nightwing. It's really, really great. It's really, really solid. There's my pitch. Catwoman. I'm sorry.
I just wish that everyone was. No. Okay. Everyone, just read this. I know that's like not much more, but seriously,
like I said, it's hard. It's like you can't want to. I mean, at this point, it's been a year long. We're a year into Tom Taylor, and I'm gonna say Bruno Redondo because he has had the most credit in terms of artwork. It's been a year since we've had this new team come about, and it's crazy when you can run for a whole year and still stay very consistent and very solid. And Tom Taylor is doing that on Superman Son of Kal-El, and I'm pretty sure we're going to say the same thing next week with that book. So, but Catwoman 45 is another book where I'm like, I feel like I don't have a lot to say, but I also feel like it's like hit or miss, and it's been really miss lately. This issue in particular, we got to see her reunite with the Bat family, and we got to see her pal around with Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown. I'm like, man, I really just want like a Gotham Girls book. Like, I know I say I want Gotham City Sirens, but I feel like Gotham City Sirens we got to reserve for like the villains. I want just a Gotham Girls book again, where it's like the heroes and the villains coming together and just having a great time. Like, give me that.
I agree
about it.
There's so much like Gotham lore. The one thing that I do wish about Catwoman is that I feel like there's so much like Gotham lore, or not Gotham. Where is she at now? Is she in?
She's back in Gotham.
Okay, because for a while
we see her kind of reunite with Batman for the first time since. Now, granted, we had Batman and Catwoman, which was in, I guess, another universe or another timeline. I don't know. But this is the first time we're seeing Batman and Catwoman come together since the not so wedding.
I do wish that there was a little bit less, I don't know, Gotham lore, and that it was easier to pick up, because there's certain parts of DC that I know extremely well, and there's just a whole nother side of DC that I have no clue about, and I wish that it was easier for my baby brain that doesn't know a lot about DC to really love and enjoy.
And that's how I feel about Marvel.
So who knows? It's not a bad book, but I do think that
it's very average. You know, it started off really strong when Tini Howard took over it, and I was like, oh, this is one of the better Catwoman books we've gotten, because a lot of Catwoman books do come off as painfully average. You know, we saw
Yeah.
Joelle Jones run. It started off really strong, got
Beach run
painfully
right before
damaged.
this was really
Rom
good.
V, really strong. But again, I just, part of me is like, how many times can we see Catwoman go toe-to-toe with Black Mask, which seems to always be the case. Not saying that I don't like Black Mask, but it's like, it feels like it's the same thing over and over again. It's the same thing over and over again with like a little twist to it. The twist this time being that there's a very sexy man named Valmont that I would like her to boink. So until she boinks, because at this point it's not if, it's when. That's when I'll stop reading the book. But I need watch me like drop the book, and then I'll get like a DM from somebody be like, "This is the one where she boinked," and I'll be like, "God fucking damn it!" It's fine.
I mean, I don't think
happens.
DC will allow that, but
It happens.
what are some other DC books that you got?
Another DC book. Let's talk about a DC book that surprised me. Did you pick up DC Mech #1?
Okay, so I did. And the thing that I have to say is that with this book, there's been like this not habit, but it feels like let's do these characters and let's make them Game of Thrones, or let's make them steampunk, or let's basically do the same
Let's
characters.
make them dinosaurs.
Let's make them dinosaurs. And the dinosaur one I really like, and maybe we can talk about that. And I was almost like surprised about this book, but I love that they made it that they did like the New Gods world, and that they made it like the apocalypse stuff. That was the biggest surprise for me.
So DC Mech is essentially kind of like what we ran through, where it's like you take a theme and you throw the characters at it. And in this case, it's mechs. And you're kind of like, why do they need mechs if they're superheroes? And I'm gonna reveal something to the crowd. Pacific Rim is one of my top three favorite movies. Okay, I love Neon Genesis Evangelion. There's something about mechs that I really fucking love. So this appealed to my baby goldfish brain, where it's like, let's put these characters in these mechs. Let's have these giant fucking, there were monsters, so we made monsters of our own type fucking thing. And I'm like, I'm here to have a good time, not a long time. And it was fun. And again, you were right. You hit it right on the head. The New Gods aspect of it. That was cool. Put Big Barda in a fucking mech. Let me see. Yeah. I want to see. Listen, hear me out. Granny Goodness.
And I loved
Put Granny Goodness in a fucking mech.
Yep, 100%.
Go Power Rangers. Put them in a mech. I think it could be fun. I have one gripe with this book.
What's that?
I have one gripe with this book. So this book opens up with the JSA fighting this mech type thing for the first time. And that's where the whole, there were monsters, so we made monsters of our own type thing comes in. Half the JSA gets wiped out. However, they call so Hawkman gets killed in this. Spoiler, Hawkman dies, which I actually kind of like, because usually it's Hawkgirl who dies in the scenario with their whole reincarnation. So I'm like, good for him. He finally fucking bites the bullet. However, whoever wrote this book, we need to talk, because they called her Shayera. But it's clearly, so this is where the fucking weird Hawkman shit comes in, because you got Shayera Hall, you got Shayera Hole, and then you have Kendra Saunders. And this fucking character is clearly Kendra fucking Saunders. She's wearing the Kendra Saunders outfit, she's got the Kendra Saunders haircut, but she is called Shayera in this book. And as somebody who is a big Hawkman stan,
clearly
the reason why I got into fucking comics, okay? I got into comics because I became obsessed with Hawkgirl, okay? That's my origin story.
Okay.
I know the difference between Shayera, and Kendra. And when you fucking misidentify, I'm gonna get a little upset.
Okay, so apparently, Porter, what's their first name? Something Porter.
It's fine. We need to talk. That's all.
Beef with you, and I'm just kidding. I see, and that's one of the things. Like I would have obviously never known if you hadn't said anything. But Hawkgirl is one of those that I would love to get into, but I know I have to read a lot of Hawkman stories and Justice.
It's very complicated. Not only that, but if you want to get into Hawkgirl, unfortunately, you have to read Jeff Johns, which I do not recommend to anybody, but it's the one good thing he has contributed to society.
Yeah.
But there was another fun theme bending book that we read. Jurassic League I feel like once again, this is just one of those books where I'm like, it's fucking dinosaurs and I'm having a good time.
So one of the I really did enjoy this book, but as I was like reading it, I'm like, man, the artwork feels really rushed. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but it looks like I don't know if it's been the entire time, but what's his name isn't doing the artwork for it.
Daniel Warren Johnson was never doing the artwork for Jurassic
League. Okay, so maybe that's why, because it feels like it is his artwork, but it's clearly not.
Yeah. It has the same style and it kind of fits the Daniel Warren Johnson vibe, but it's not his artwork.
I didn't realize that until this issue.
This issue?
Maybe I learned it the first issue, but anyways, this is still a really good book. Like, I can't even tell you exactly what the plot of this particular issue was or what happened, but I just know that I like it. It's fun, and I can't wait to read the whole 6-issue run.
Yeah.
Will I still pick up issues 4, 5, and 6 and leave it being like, oh, that was fun, but I had no clue what was happening? Of course I fucking will.
Because that's all that matters. I have 2 more DC books. I don't know how many you might have. I'm actually surprised. I did not think. Now, granted, this is spread throughout 3 weeks, so maybe that's why it seems like there's a lot of DC books. What is that?
This is a variant cover for Jurassic League. Isn't that adorable?
Obsessed.
When we see little baby, yeah.
It's baby Darkseid playing with Jurassic figures. Hear me out. Todd McFarlane, let's talk. You want to make action figures so bad. You want to make action figures that sell to boys so bad. Make fucking action figures for the Jurassic League, and I will buy 20 of them.
Yeah, true. It could be all the male characters, and I'd be like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have a shark dinosaur Superman, because duh, why not?
Shark dinosaur Superman.
Let me see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That you read?
I'm
sorry. I lied. I have 3. I have 3 more. There was a book.
And there's one that I didn't read, and I'm really disappointed in myself.
What is the book you didn't read?
Detective Comics, written by Ram V.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about it real quick because that's one of my 3. All right, Detective Comics 1026. This is the start of a new arc with Mr. Ram V, and we have both been ridiculously excited for this. It was the one fucking thing that was going to get us to read a fucking Batman book, y'all. It's insane. We finally did it.
Listen, I must have forgotten to pre-order it.
How?
And I don't know. I literally pre-ordered 1027 but didn't pre-order 1026.
Okay.
I do not know. And my shop just does not carry a lot of Batman. Like, they don't carry this book unless you pre-order.
Why they are the Eisner nominated fucking shop.
They could still probably tell you the difference between every single fucking Batman book that is on the shelf, all 20, 30 of them, but they just don't carry a lot of them. But anyways, go on.
But it's okay that you didn't get it because 1026 has already gotten well received. It is going back for a second printing with a gorgeous fucking cover by Julian Tedesco, who I fucking love. I love Julian Tedesco and his art. He's phenomenal. He is one of the best cover artists right now of our generation. It's amazing. I have a lot of feelings about this book. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is supposed to be like Detective Comics going back to like a gothic horror.
It's supposed to be.
Oh.
However, it doesn't pull it off well. And here's my reasoning. So again, Ram V is known for doing gothic dark horror. Let's look at These Savage Shores, which is the epitome of like gothic horror. It's basically the book that put him on the map. And I was really excited because I thought he was going to bring some of that energy over to Detective Comics. And he does, partially. So when this book opens up, we get that gothic horror aspect to it. But then after those first couple pages, it kind of falls back into the pattern of being an average Batman book. And I found myself trudging through it. And I'm like, what is actually going on? Why am I reading this? And then it kind of ends back on that gothic horror note.
Okay.
When we get those elements of gothic horror, and it's kind of like in Bruce Wayne's head, we get a giant manifestation of a bat, which is really creepy. You know, you get some of these, what's the word? Not the, like the thought bubbles, but we get these like pages of prose that are kind of like setting up the story, and it's like romantic and gothic, and I'm like, all right, I'm into this. I feel like Rom V wants to go 100% into this gothic element.
And the editors
somebody
are like
at DC are like pushing the brakes and pumping the brakes. And I really just want to see Rom V be allowed to just do whatever the fuck he wants in terms of gothic Batman. I think he could revolutionize the character, and I want to say this, but I don't want to say this because you're gonna get mad. I want him, in terms of the way that I feel about it, so let me preface that. In terms of the way that I feel about it, and the way that I personally feel like Tom King took Batman and romanticized Batman and made it a story that I was interested in and wanted to read every month and felt like this was a new character again. I wanted Rom V to be able to do the same thing in his own style. And I feel like we got it in glimpses, but there's still that hesitancy of it. And I just want it 100%.
Maybe this is my theory from not having read it, but maybe what is going on is that Rom V isn't putting all of his eggs into issue 1, because this is going to be an ongoing series. So maybe we'll, like, you know, like you said, there's glimpses of it at the end. So maybe we'll get to see that, you know, and then in 1027.
Fingers crossed. That being said, it was definitely, as somebody who has not read a Batman book probably since Tom King jumped off, you know, it didn't feel completely stale. We'll say that. Because a lot of Batman books, you know, Joshua Williamson, James Tiny Onion, they were starting to feel a little stale. It started to feel a little formulaic. This did kind of bring Batman into a new light.
I like it when issues, like, you know, it's 1026 of a run. I really like it when these issues just, this is where you can dive in. You don't have to read the first 1,000 issues. You can just dive into these.
It is a very dive in point, I will say that.
Well, some of the other books that I read, I don't know if you read either of these, and they both came out, I think, last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you the difference. And so I apologize for that.
No, what are they?
It is, well, I mean, I guess, okay, so Sword of Azrael and Sword of Azrael, Dark Night of the Soul.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching Azrael.
I didn't love these. They were both, like, it's pretty much the same creative team. Dan Waters and Shamela. I don't know how to pronounce this last name, so I deeply apologize. But I don't know why we needed both of these in 1 week. I read both of those, had no clue what was going on. I did like this, though. I'm not going to lie.
Azrael's definitely one of those characters where, like, I see his name pop up and I'm like, oh, no, not you.
I did like this, like, biblical angel stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it. But there's other just, like, religious stuff going on. And I know it's not meant to be religious, but I don't know. As someone who has, like, religious trauma, I'm just like, nah, no thank you. So yeah.
I do have a third book. I keep saying I only got 1, 2, 3, and then I keep finding more in my little spreadsheet here. I read Artemis Wanted, which was a oversized one-shot from DC Comics, which was unfortunately 2 months later still a tie-in to Trials of the Amazon. I love Artemis. I think he's one of the coolest fucking Amazons. He has this like bad bitch, no can do attitude. And I think she's neat. I just like her. I'm a little gay for her. It's fine. It's whatever. It's okay. I kind of like this book, but I kind of hated this book. I'm really on the fence with it. So the artwork, first of all, is gorgeous. I thought it was beautiful. But we get this story of Artemis. She's kind of on the run. We kind of get to see some of her backstory, which I'm gonna be honest with you, felt really reminiscent of Kate Kane, and I was like, am I reading an Artemis book or am I reading a
Okay.
Catwoman book?
Yeah.
But we see her go off. She kind of finds herself. She redeems herself. We kind of find out that, she isn't the murderer of Hippolyta, because again, we have to tie this back into Trials of the Amazon, which is probably one of the worst fucking event comics we've seen in a while, because there was no marketing, no fucking cohesiveness with that.
Right after Wonder Girl had gotten canceled. So yeah, it had nowhere to go. It had no
It had
room.
nowhere to go. It was set up to fail. But this was kind of fun, and it's like it made me miss the character, and it made me want, because in this book we also get to see Donna Troy and Cassie Sandsmark, who is Wonder Girl, and it's like I want a Wonder Family book, the way that we get Super Family books, or the way that we get Bat Family books. I'm like, I just want a fun little team up books where all my Amazon girls can hang out. And I don't know. I'm just on the fence with this book, because it's like I liked it. I had a good time, but I'm like, why was it an event tie-in 2 months later?
And I think too, I was kind of confused when I read this book, because I'm like, wait, Trial of the like I was like, I thought that was kind of over. This should not have been an oversized one shot. This should have been its own series. And the thing that I don't like about it is that these books, they tend to go big, and they have these like big ideas and these heartfelt stories, but they end up going nowhere because they aren't allowed to. So like, I don't know, I wish that there was more at stake in these books, especially for characters like this that could go big, and it doesn't, and it deserves to.
It's a shame. Made me sad. Wanted more. I have 2 more books. What do you have?
Okay. I have, let me see here. Did you get Superman Space Age?
I did not.
Okay. So this book was done by Mark Russell and Michael Allred, and Laura Allred. And I feel like I should have liked this book, and I didn't. I love the Allred's artwork. I love Mark Russell. I didn't love this book. I cannot even pinpoint why. But I felt like, not necessarily that I've heard it before, but it felt like, I don't even know how to describe it. I wish that I really liked this book, but I didn't.
It was just kind of one of those books that just happened.
Yeah, like Superman, I think, is, as a character, is, I don't want to say easily relatable to, but they have a classic hero story that anyone can get into. But I needed something new, and it didn't feel new. It felt like something that I have just read 1,000 times before. I don't know. And I didn't love the artwork for it. And normally I like the Allred's art, but so it felt too safe for the artwork.
That makes sense.
I know a lot of people really liked it. So if you really liked it, that's great. But
it wasn't for you.
I also got, I don't know if you got this one, Aquaman Andromeda, book 2. Did you get it?
I did.
What were your thoughts?
So when I think of Black Label books, this is a book that is deserving of the Black Label book. That oversized format, Christian Ward's art. Christian Ward's art continues to just be stunning and amazing. And, it's a book that is like a cosmic space underwater type story, which sounds really weird. And it's even weirder when you're kind of thrown into it and you're submerged into it quite literally. You get these giant backdrops that just make you feel so insignificant. And it makes you feel almost claustrophobic, because I felt like I was living under the water, not living, but I felt like I was under the water and I was drowning, and it's these colors and it's insane. But the story itself is kind of just there. I feel like, especially with issue 2, I found myself enjoying the art way more than I enjoyed the story. And if I'm being quite honest, if it wasn't for Christian Ward's art, I probably would have stopped halfway.
I am so glad you said that, because I feel the same way. Like, y'all know I love Ram V, I love Chris Ward, but I think the heavy lifting on this book was done by Chris Ward. And even like when you're reading it, there's not a lot of dialogue, which I'm generally okay with, especially for a book that features Chris Ward's art, because it's like, get out of my way so I can look at the artwork, but I found myself getting lost in it rather than reading what was going on. This book is still great. I love
it's a neat concept, but I feel like it's falling short because I'm told that this is going to be a cosmic underwater space adventure. So I'm expecting weird shit. I'm expecting Lovecraftian elements. I'm expecting just balls to the wall weirdness. And I feel like we spend way too much time with these human characters that are unrelatable. I couldn't tell you the names of any of these characters. They're bland, they're boring. I'm tired of hearing military jargon. I want to see cosmic space Aquaman, Cthulhu man. It's almost like when you go to watch an alien movie, it's like watching one of the bad alien movies where I'm like, I just want to see the fucking alien, but I'm stuck with these dumb, boring humans.
Yeah, there's a little bit more like politics in it than.
And I'm like, I want to see the weirdness. Like, you've got this perfect team for weirdness, and we're not exploiting it enough. And I need it to be weirder.
I agree.
For a book called Aquaman Andromeda, I need it to be weirder.
And I think this, because it's Black Label, it's only going to be like 3 issues. So I think there's 1 issue left.
3 or 4. I'm not sure. I don't know.
So we got a request for Sandman Nightmare Country. I'm not going to lie. I'm not loving these. Like, I'm not loving Nightmare Country.
It's another average Tiny Onion book.
It is. And it's funny because I was like, this is what, issue 4. And the first 2 issues, I'm like, I don't love the stuff with the Corinthian. And then I saw like the Sandman show. I'm like, okay, it's going to have, it's going to feature the Corinthian. Maybe it'll get me excited for this. It didn't. Maybe I need to like read it again, but I couldn't really tell you what's going on in it. I don't love it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And we were so excited for this announcement. We saw the announcement, James Tiny Onion on a weird fucking Sandman-esque book. I was like, oh, I'm interested. You were fucking excited being the Sandman super fan that you are. And I remember reading it and being like, I couldn't tell you what happened other than it's another James Tiny Onion self-insert OC. And that's about it. So that's a shame. But you will continue to read it and you'll continue to buy it because that's what you do.
100%, and any variant cover that I like. Okay, so I've got 2 more. I'm going to do this one because I know you didn't read this one, and that's Swamp Thing. It's the penultimate issue. Swamp Thing has the Green Lantern's powers, which I don't like understand too much, but I feel like this is really bringing it in a really cool way because Swamp Thing is basically going to like the Parliament. So there's the Parliament of Trees, but he's going to the Parliament of like machines, and then there's stuff to do with his brother. Anyways, it's the penultimate issue. It's issue 15 of 16. So we've got 1 issue left. I'm not going to get too much into it other than this is by far like best Rom-V that's out right now. So
there was one final DC book and I wasn't going to read it because I had no interest in this character, but it ended up being my favorite thing from DC in a while.
Is it this one?
It was the, what is it called? New champion of Shazam. I'll be honest, I'm not a Shazam fan. I'm not a Mary Marvel fan. I think it's like you already have one Superman-esque character. Why do you need more? I fucking love this book. Yeah. This book has kind of a history because it was supposed to come out a couple years ago or a year ago or so, and it got canceled, and then it got shortened to be a miniseries, and like I just remember there being all sorts of controversy over this fucking book. I feel like at one point Jeff Johns was supposed to write the book, and then all this shit happened with him, so they kicked him off. This book is fucking delightful.
It is. I would say
so fucking cute.
What I loved about this one is that they, it reminded me of the recent Supergirl book that came out.
Yes. Yeah.
But more like less of a, like, so this character is more of like a Superman character where it's like truth and justice and honor, where Supergirl was more of like, I'm kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
this character like isn't. She's adorable.
She's an
She's
angel.
delightful.
She's an angel.
She's an angel. Protect her at all costs.
This book gives me fucking. It's gonna sound weird as shit, and hear me out. Let's talk through it. This book gives me Spider-Man vibes.
Oh.
Like what as a kid growing up, what I imagine Spider-Man and Peter Parker represents, because in this book, so to kind of give you some backstory, I guess something happened in a previous book and they kind of give you a little highlight. Shazam has walled himself off in a fucking crystal. So because he's walled off in a crystal or some shit, the entire Marvel family has lost their powers, which, you know, if you've seen the Shazam movie, because that's about all I get with Shazam, you know, he's got a whole family that just has powers. And I like that this book, and I don't know, because again, I don't know the Ms. Marvel lore and the Mary Marvel lore and Shazam lore, but it gave me a lot of, like, I watched the movie, so I understood what was happening. You know, you had these characters I recognized, the group home, the step or the adoptive parents, like, I recognized all this. It's like, okay, cool. I'm kind of familiar with what's going on. You know, Mary Marvel is like, I have no powers. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to live a normal life and call it a day. And, you know, the dialogue is just great. It's cute. It's fun. It's relatable. And that's, I think, where the Peter Parker Spider-Man aspect comes into it. Because it's just a kid trying to be a kid, or a young adult in this case. And then we find out through a talking rabbit. I'm not going to explain any further than that. Just a talking rabbit. No, you have superpowers again. You're the new champion of Shazam, even though Billy is locked in a crystal. I understand you want to be a normal kid with no powers. Fuck you.
Sorry.
Be a superhero.
Yeah.
But it's
with great power comes great responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility. And I don't want to call it the fish out of water story, because it's not a fish out of water story, but it's that classic story of superhero loses their superpowers, gets to live a normal life. JK, no, you don't. You have to do this. You know, and we've seen that story before. You know, it's been done to death before. But this was still a treat. And the artwork from Doc Shaner is beautiful. The way that it's written is wonderful. It's relatable. It's fun. It's jokey without being cringy.
Oh, yes.
It's just, it's nice. It's a really great, this is a wonderful all ages book. Like, this is a book that you could hand to anybody.
I also just have to say, you hit the nail on the head with everything. I do just have to say, I love this part. I don't know anything about these characters, so I don't even know if it's like a real character or a new character. I just really like that his name is Disaster Master.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Disaster
Master.
Yes, of course that makes sense.
Disaster Master.
It's a 4-issue limited series. But I hope to see, like, seriously, it's really
fun.
good. This is going to be one of the surprising ones for me.
It's fun. I love it. It's good.
Okay. So next, that was all the DC that I had.
That was a lot of DC.
That was a lot of DC. Marvel or indie next? I've got a little bit of
I have a couple Marvel. I have a lot of indie.
You know what? I think that we should just make the executive decision to blow through Marvel and get to indie.
Blow through Marvel.
If that's okay with everyone.
We're gonna blow through Marvel because it shouldn't. There's a couple books that we'll kind of go in detail with, but not a whole lot. So I've got 2 right off the bat that I can kind of just blow through. She-Hulk #5 continues to be a average book with a weird release schedule. I don't know what's going on with the release schedule. That's all I have to say about that. Boom, bam, done. Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood #3. So I read this book 2 weeks ago. I cannot tell you a single fucking story that happened, but I remember liking one of the stories, but I can't tell you what happened.
Ooh. I feel like that's how
this. Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood, I think, is following a consistent trend where there's 3 stories in the book. There's one that I really like, one that's average, and one that I don't like.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
I will go ahead and say this. I've been reading the regular Moon Knight title. I can't tell you what's going on in the regular Moon Knight title, and I can't tell you why I continue to pick it up. I want to like it. I really do.
Why are you doing it?
I don't know. I thought I took it off my pull list, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm just not loving it. I'm sorry. I really want to, though.
There were a couple new #1s from Marvel. Defenders Beyond was weird. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what the fuck's going on with that book. I feel like I have to be on a weird acid trip to understand that book. That being said, I really fucking like the art on this book. It gives me Tradmore vibes, but it's not Tradmore. I also really like the way that Loki is depicted in this book, because Loki is known as being this gender fluid being.
Exactly.
We've never seen a book where Loki feels gender fluid. Loki either is male presenting or female presenting, and this is the first book where it's like Loki fits that like non-binary persona.
Yep.
And it's fucking amazing, and I love, listen, this is so stupid, but I fucking love the little gap in their teeth. It's so goddamn cute. This book is fucking pretty, even if I don't know what's going on.
So what I would say, not necessarily that you need to have read, there was the Defenders book that came out last year by Al Ewing. I don't necessarily think that you have to read it, but I think it would make it a lot more enjoyable. There's some pieces that you can pick up, but I agree. I really do. When Al Ewing hits, he hits.
It's fun. It's wacky. If you like weird cosmic, like it's cosmic without being cosmic. It's like we need like a term for like fantasy cosmic, because it's like weird magic, whatever, hoodoo, Doctor Strange doing some weird shit. This is what Multiverse of Madness should have been, okay?
100%. Yep.
Without the horror elements, this is like, if you just want weird, brightly, and it's bright, it's colorful, it pops. Do I know what's happening? No. Am I having a fun time anyway? Abso-fucking-lutely. This is the definition of I'm here for a fun time, not a long time.
It was good. Thumb up.
That's all that matters.
What else you got? You said there were some number ones.
There was another number one. Spider-Verse. Edge of Spider-Verse, number one. So, Edge of Spider-Verse was one of the first Marvel books I remember picking up and genuinely liking. Yeah. When I first started really reading comics. I really liked the weirdness of it. I fucking love Spider-Punk. Gwen Stacy at the time was cool, but now she's overdone. I absolutely fucking love Black Noir. He's the fucking best Spider-Man, and even before he was voiced by Nick Cage, I just fucking love him. So I was excited to see this, and I'm like, oh, we get some weirdness, and it's pretty cool. I just like seeing different types of spider people and like what you can do with them, because we get one that's like in the Revolutionary War and is like antagonizing British soldiers. We get to see some
Laird,
and it's fucking, and then you had to reread it because at the end he reveals that he's Scottish. So I'm like, fuck, now I gotta reread this little 2-page story in a Scottish accent and have more fun with it. We get a really cool but also kind of depressing Black Noir story. Or it's not Black Noir, but that's the boys. Black Noir is the boys. Hold on. Noir Spider-Man. I don't fucking know. We're going to call him Black Noir Spider-Man because I said so, and my brain is doing that thing where it just runs to places. It's a depressing but enjoyable story that kind of gives him more character. And I'm like, oh, this little baby boy. But then we get the best part of the book. Spider-Man, dinosaur, Peter Parker, web-swinging Tyrannosaurus Rex. And I know somebody at Marvel was like, those kids are having fun over at DC with their dinosaur book. What if we made Spider-Man and Green Goblin fucking dinosaurs? And I'm like, you know what? Y'all have a spider pig. I'll take a Spider-Man dinosaur.
Can I just say, the fact that they spell it like, because it's Peter Parker, but they spell it like pterodactyl, the PT. So Tarker would be how you would pronounce it. So it's PTER, PTARKER.
It's fucking fun, my dude. And I'm like, listen, editors at Marvel, anybody who's listening to me, I know DC already has one, but if y'all want to give me a whole goddamn Marvel or even just Spider dinosaur book, I will read the dinosaur book and I will talk marvelous things about the dinosaur book. I'll do it. Give me the dinosaur book.
It was really, so this was really fun. I liked all the stories in it. And I would say, like, I think a lot of people just end up buying this and it ends up being hyped up because it's like, oh, the first appearance of Spider Laird
and that character,
Spider Dinosaur, Spider Saur, whatever. But seriously, it's a fun read. Like, please please read your comics, buy your comics, and please read your comics.
100%. What else did you get from Marvel?
So got a couple more. I think that, did you say that you got Ant-Man?
No, I did not.
Okay. It was pretty good. I felt like it's trying to do, I got these two. I feel like it's trying to do the like Spider-Man life story and Fantastic Four life story, because it's quite literally going through like the decades. The artwork on this, I don't know, let me try to find like a page that I think will be really good. But it like looks very vintage pulpy type comic books.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of fun. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with like this, because they're obviously going to move through the decades. So I'm curious what they're going to do with that.
So but this is like an Ant-Man life story book, like they did with Spider-Man and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But why didn't they market it like that?
That I'm not sure of. That I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's like, oh, we'll just do Ant-Man #1 and people will pick it up. Where if you do Ant-Man life story, people aren't going to pick it up, because it 100% should be marketed as
Ant-Man life story.
And it's Al Ewing, so it's fun.
Speaking of #1s with weird marketing, we got the return of Peach Momoko with Demon Days and Iron Wars, and this book is pretty, but it's very average.
I think that her books are so incredible.
I like her interiors more than I like her cover sometimes.
Yeah, there's moments, like there's one moment in here where the character is dreaming. Oh my goodness, I should have had it. Where the character is like dreaming. Oh my goodness, where are you at? Like
pretty.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book.
It is a beautiful book, but we're doing the same shit that we've been complaining about since day one, where it seems like you're just putting out #1s, even though this is technically a cohesive, coercive story. And
but it's still going to be a one-shot somehow. Like,
but it's still a one-shot, and I'm just like, Marvel, Peach Momoko, whoever's going to listen to me, please label these books as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you have, because this book is so marketable to the mainstream audience. And not only to the mainstream audience, manga is so fucking popular right now. You have shit like Spy Family, Jujutsu Kaisen. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. Leave me alone. I just know it's what the cool kids like. You got Chainsaw Man. All of these are huge fucking hits. And these tend to go more towards people that don't want to invest in comics. They're willing to invest in manga, but they don't want to invest in comics. This is something that they could easily get in. And it's the first time that you've tried to do this sort of manga crossover, because they have tried to do it previously that has been successful, where it's beautiful. It's not cringy, but it's being marketed so poorly that these people are not going to catch on to it.
Yeah, and people are going to miss out, or they're going to be confused. But hey, I keep seeing this thing that's getting circulated where it's like, what was the first like single issue comic that you picked up? It probably wasn't a #1. It was like a random like 42 or something like that.
Truth.
And you just pick it up and you just love it. So maybe that'll happen. And
maybe that'll happen. That's about my thoughts on that book.
What else you got?
So there's one weird book that I wasn't gonna read, and then I was like, fuck, I have to read this book.
Is it a #1?
No, it is not a #1. Okay. But I need to go on my soapbox about it. And it's a very weird soapbox, so strap in, buddies. Hopefully Carrie's still in the chat, because I feel like Carrie might be that one person that understands what's going on.
Carrie.
Someone go get Carrie. Obi-Wan Kenobi #3 came out. I told myself the past 2 issues I fucking hated. I'm not reading anymore. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi #3 has fucking clones on the cover. And I'm like, fuck, this thing is going through the decades and the eras of Obi-Wan. We're hitting fucking Clone Wars era. I need to fucking read this. This is the best Star Wars comic I've gotten in a fucking long time. Is this one singular motherfucking issue. The artwork is fucking beautiful. We get full-on goddamn Clone Wars content, which we have not seen in comics for over a decade. I saw a little fucking Ahsoka Tano in the fucking corner, so I lost my goddamn mind. She didn't stick around long, but you just get this story of Obi-Wan and these clones having to do this battle. And I know you're not going to know what I'm talking about. Don't know Star Wars that way.
So gonna listen to me. That's
But
okay.
we finally get this conversation that I've been wanting to talk about, you know, in terms of Star Wars. And I've been wanting to have Star Wars have this conversation because the Jedi Knights were knights. They were there to keep the peace, protect the people, and to save lives. However, when Star Wars happened and the Clone Wars happened and Palpatine starts twisting his little fingers in his plans, the Jedi Knights no longer were knights. They became soldiers. They started adapting titles of general and commander, and it was weird, and it made sense, but it didn't make sense. But you always, as at least as a super fan, was like, how do these Jedi feel? You know, who grew up knowing that Jedis were protector of peace and order, are now leading the front lines of war and leaving brutality behind them. And in this one issue, we get to see Obi-Wan Kenobi, who for years in the prequels, the original trilogy, is seen as like this guardian of goodness and peace and the way of the Force. We finally get to see a glimpse into his mind that he's like, no, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing this? I signed up. Well, you don't get to sign up as a Jedi. You're kind of like, fuck you, you're a Jedi. But he's like, I'm a Jedi so that way I can protect people. But now I'm causing destruction and death. And I fucking lost my mind and I cried. And I'm just, at this point in time, I really just want a Star Wars Clone Wars era comic. Please leave the original trilogy behind. Stop giving us comics that we've seen over and over again. Give me something new. That's my soapbox.
Yes.
It was a lot. You don't understand anything that I talked about. It's fine. Somebody that listens to the show that's a Star Wars fan will
I
understand.
try so hard to know about Star Wars.
It's fine.
And I know a lot about Star Wars, but I just don't I don't like Star Wars enough to have an opinion.
That's fine. Just listen to me rant. That's all that matters.
Okay. Just as long as you listen to me when I rant about Star
Just
Trek.
listen to me rant about Star Wars. That's all I want.
But I agree. You know, I agree with any opinion you have about anything Star Wars related. Speaking of which, Star Wars, I'm not saying that I want to drop Dr. Aphra, but I feel like after this whole Crimson Reign event and it's like picking up the pieces, I feel like I'm kind of lost with Dr. Aphra, which is sad because it's like one of my favorite
It's the only thing about Star Wars you really truly love.
It's true. That's my Star Wars contribution to the conversation. What else you got for Marvel?
I have one book left for Marvel. Yeah, I don't have that.
Okay, can I go through some of these really quick? Because I know, like, if you didn't read any of these. Okay. What's your number one? Or what's your
not a number one?
Okay, so then
it's a number two, and you know which one it is. Okay.
Gambit. I tried. I fucking hate Gambit. I'm not saying that when I read this, I was like, Chris Claremont, but like, I don't know. I tried. I really tried. I fucking hate Gambit as a character, and I did not like this. I'm
surprised you read that.
I want someone who likes Gambit to tell me if this was good and why but I don't like Gambit. I need to just leave him behind. X-Men 92. They're just kind of like going through the Hickman era, and at this point it feels formulaic. And I like it enough, but it's not doing anything new for me. But it's still pretty gosh darn good. But, Judgment Day is an event that happened.
That did happen, and I completely missed that. Oops.
Yeah. I liked so let me go ahead and get my books. Okay, so I really liked the first Judgment Day, but it's a whole fucking it's a thing. An event, and look at that Peach Momoko cover there. Even though it's Kieran Gillen, this one was really, really good. But then there was this last week, there was X-Men Red number 5 and Immortal X-Men number 5. And I think I actually liked X-Men Red a little bit better than I liked the other one, or Immortal X-Men.
Immortal X-Men.
But at this point, I'm just like, because this had a lot of really good Magneto moments. Magneto is like my Marvel Swamp Thing, like Daddy Magneto all the way. What else? Do, 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 do. Shang-Chi. I really liked this one, even though it's just another new number one for something. It was really good, and I think if you like the movie, you'd like this. There's a couple other books that I bought, but I didn't read, so I'm not even going to mention those. But let's talk about the one that you have.
Variance number 2. This book is so fucking weird and bizarre, and I love it, but I don't know what's happening. But it's Gail Simone, so I'm like, I just like Gail Simone's writing. I love the way that she writes her characters. I love the nonchalantness that she takes with characters, and she just doesn't give a fuck. And I feel like for Jessica Jones, that is the perfect character to do that with, where she's just like, I don't give a shit. I have to do this thing. I'm going to do this thing. I don't care if it hurts your feelings. But the whole idea of just Jessica Jones meeting different ideas of herself. This is what they wanted to do with that dumbass fucking Gwenverse.
Yeah.
This is literally what they wanted to do with Gwenverse. So they're like, it's different versions of her meeting herself and interacting with herself. Then you have her daughter that you have to take into consideration. You have to take Luke into consideration. You know, the Purple Man is returning. And it's like, this book is so chaotic. And I don't say that in a bad way. It is just chaotic. I feel like that first issue, we were complaining that it was almost too safe because we already knew the big twist. And at this point, it's just things keep happening and it's crazy and I'm here for it. And Phil Noto's artwork is just gorgeous and I love it. And it's a fun fucking book.
It is. So we kind of know like what's going to happen based on the cover. And I feel like I didn't like that. Because like Jessica Jones goes from smooching on Luke Cage and then like a page later she's smooching on Daredevil.
But I think it was a different Jessica Jones.
That's what I'm hoping, but it doesn't like explicitly say that. So I'm like, wait, what's going on?
And I think that's the beauty of it. I think that as this book comes out issue by issue, and if we read it issue by issue, which we will be because it's Gail Simone, of course we would, it's like, we're not going to know what's happening and we're just going to be along for the ride. And then when we finally have it all together and maybe we either reread it again or we do get to that ending, issue, it's going to be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. I didn't know before, but now I do. And it's just great. It's just fun to have Gail Simone back because she doesn't do as much comics writing anymore. She does a lot more behind the scenes work. I know she's over at Lion Forge. She's also doing a lot of like animation and TV writing and things like that. And it's like, Gail Simone is the reason I got into comics. Her work on Birds of Prey, her work on Secret Six, everything, her work on Red Sonja, like everything she did is why I love comics. So to be in that like weird, I'm a comic journalist now, and it's like part of my job to talk about comics and get people excited about comics. Being able to talk about something Gail Simone has written, it's like coming full circle for me.
Yeah, agreed. There's also some really great moments in this between Jessica Jones and She-Hulk, which I just thought were adorable.
Love them. And I think that issue 3, we get that cover where it's She-Hulk holding back the 2 variants of Jessica. So I'm hoping we get to see more She-Hulk in that. And Gail Simone, write a She-Hulk comic, because I think that would be really fun.
I agree. And I do have to say, I'm really sorry. I picked up the first issue of Strange and just never kept up with it. And I know it's going to be one that I go back and read, but I'm so sorry. I feel like I've disappointed you, but I promise that I'll go back and read the first issue.
I met this woman and now I'm in love with her. And I love that first issue. But again, I don't know what happened. I don't know if a lot of books just came out in those following weeks where I just didn't keep up with it. But it is one of my biggest regrets.
Totally agree. And hello to one of my favorite people, the Miss Beautiful Sheena. Thank you so much for being here.
That's all I have for Marvel. There's a lot of indie books and a lot of indie number ones.
Christ, there was a lot of indie. So I know we're like 2 hours into the show. I don't necessarily want to blow through some of these, but
there's some we can definitely blow through. I think we should leave number ones at the end and kind of talk about other series maybe first. So let me see, I got my giant list here. Hit Me number 5 came out. This was the series finale. This book has just been really cool. I think it's because it's so weird, and the fact that Hit Me follows a sex worker who specializes in pleasure pain. Specializes in pleasure pain, gets involved in your average. It's a very average plot where it's like you get involved in this heist. This person wants the stuff back. You get caught in a crossfire, but I think it's that element of sex work that's brought into every issue that makes it unique and fun. And I like the characters, and it was cool. And I love that AWA, it seems like, continues to put out these like really weird, really cool books. So that makes me happy.
Agreed. Loved this. What is it? Krista Faust, Priscilla Petrades, and Marco Lesko, creative team here, did a really, really good job. This book, I would say, isn't for everyone because, like, there are some, like, obviously it's more of an R-rated book, and there's going to be a lot of sexual themes, but, like, I like that. Like you said, it could easily be just this, like, crime story, but the fact that it involves this, like, perspective of a sex worker, really, really great job.
We need more adult comics like this, where they're, like, adult themed, and they have themes of sex without being maybe like sexually exploitive.
Exactly. Yep. Agreed. So that was the 5th issue, and it ended the series. Really good. Please, everyone, go pick up the trade.
It was fun. I liked it.
Did you read Little Monsters number 6?
I did, and I hated it. I don't know what's happening anymore at this point. Supposedly, this was supposed to be the end of an arc, but it didn't really. First of all, this was not even a cliff hook. Like, this was not a cliff hook. It didn't make any sense. I think I gotta do it. I think I gotta pull the plug on this book.
Same.
I want to love this book. I'm not going to go into detail because we did that with the last issue. So if you want to see our full thoughts on that and everything that we're feeling on that, check out that episode. But this book just it's set up for greatness. Dustin Nguyen, Jeff Lemire, Baby Vampires could have been the next Sweet Tooth, and it wasn't.
This was, and especially the artwork is lacking for me.
See, I like the artwork. That's not my problem. My problem is with the storytelling.
I mean, I also don't like the storytelling, but one of the other books that just, I don't know why it's still on my pull list, but I'm giving it hope. But Once and Future, it's good, but I need more from it, and it's not necessarily delivering, and it just becomes run of the mill for me. So, what else you got?
A book that really surprised me this week because I liked the first issue, but I didn't love the first issue. But the second issue, I was like, oh, I love this book. Do a Power Bomb, number 2 from Daniel Warren Johnson. The fact that I am as invested as I am on a fucking wrestling comic, it is so fucking crazy. So at this point, you know, I'm going to kind of re-summarize this book because when I tell you about this book, you're going to want to read this book. Pro wrestler, she dies. We're then jumped forward to, 20 years later, her daughter is now taking up the mantle, wants to do everything to honor her mom, isn't really the greatest wrestler, gets zapped by a fantasy man who is so bad in his fantasy world that he has been trapped on an island. And so his only form of entertainment is TV, where he has now become obsessed with wrestling. So he's like, fuck it. I'm going to make my own wrestling ring, and kidnaps wrestlers from all over the place and is like, hey, wrestle for me. And it's like, well, why am I going to wrestle for you? Well, what if I told you that I could bring back a dead person, JK, meaning your mom, so you're going to do stuff for me. And I'm like, shit, wait, this is actually really interesting.
Character, because her mom died, has not been able to invest as much time into wrestling. Like learning wrestling.
I would too, especially because she watched her mom die from wrestling, and you've got all these people that it feels like are around her that are kind of holding her back. You have the person that killed her mom having to be her partner because apparently these are doubles matchups, so it adds another layer where it's like, okay, I now have to team up with the person who killed my mom, and I'm not going to reveal the twist, but there is a twist at the end of the book that I should have saw coming, but didn't. And it was just so fucking satisfying. And this book is if you looked me in my face a month ago and was like, "Hey, I got a book for you. It's a wrestling book," I would have been like, "No, thanks, but no. I don't care if Daniel Warren Johnson is applied to it. I don't give a shit. This book is so good. It's fun. I don't even care.
Excellent.
Have I ever watched wrestling? No. Did I have fun with this book? Yes. I could probably talk longer on this book. It's great. The storytelling, the world building, the weirdness of it, the fact that it blends fantasy with wrestling is fun.
Oh, I think you cut out a little bit.
Fantasy, weirdness, wrestling, read the book.
Read the book.
Read the book.
One of the books that I know that you didn't get, or I don't know if you read, is The Joneses, issue number 4. This is still just a really good book, and it's doing this like people are coming after them because they're super powered. Like I like it when, I don't know, it's really good.
It's defying Incredibles.
It is, and it's like defying the tropes, because that could easily just be like any book that we've seen, but it's doing a really good job. So AWA, The Joneses, issue number 4 of 5. Next one's going to be the last one.
It's a great book.
Good. Did you read Grimm number 3?
I did. This book is following the trope of Stephanie Phillips starts off really fucking strong. She's got a really cool concept. I'm loving it. I'm into it. And then it just becomes convoluted and I don't know what's happening. And I'm not having as much fun as I did in the beginning.
I feel like it's getting into the less world building, more like personal drama. And that's where, for me, the energy just kind of like slips a little bit.
It is. This book was so cool in the beginning.
She does a really good job, but I just, yeah. Really quick, I know you don't read Silver Coin.
Mm-hmm.
This is issue number 12. I've really liked this series, but this is probably my least favorite issue.
Oh no.
So, anyways, that kind of sucks. I know you also don't read Ice Cream Man. This is issue number 31. This one was less horror and just heartbreaking all the way down.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the horror. The heartbreak is the horror.
It is. You can pick, if we haven't said it before, Ice Cream, you can literally just pick up issue by issue and just like read one. But this one, it was really good. It's very heartbreaking, and it's literally just like slice of life. Yeah. Anyways, it was good. I love this series.
I hate this place, or fuck this place, number 3, whichever variant you may have picked up. I'm going to be honest. The first 2 issues, I was like, this is kind of okay. This is kind of cool. It is what it is. I'm a huge fan of Kyle Starks. Assassination is one of my favorite fucking books of all time. I'm going to talk about it every time we talk about Kyle Starks because everybody needs to be reading it. Issue 3 of I Hate This Place is what solidified it for me as a good fucking book. This book really starts to lean into Kyle Starks' humor. We get introduced to this. We get introduced to this like ghost hunter exorcist person. And he's just really fucking funny. And I think that he brings that comedy into what was a serious story. And we start to lean into the weirdness because at the end of the day, this is a weird book about being trapped on a farm. And there's fucking ghosts that come out every night. And I'm like, that alone is boring. But when you start to inject that like weird, almost meta humor, kind of like Cabin in the Woods-esque humor, I'm like, all right, I'm having a good time. So, you know,
characters are what makes it the difference, and I think that's what Kyle Starks does really well, is creating these characters in a slice of life way where it's like, even though the conversations they're having is about living on a like haunted, spooky fucking farm in the middle of nowhere that
you inherited from your weird great uncle.
But it's literally the conversations between the characters that could seem really boring. So, like, I think that's the thing that where Stephanie Phillips, that issue 3 of Grimm, where like the conversations between the characters slip. Mm-hmm. Kyle Starks does those conversations really, really well.
I just really like this book, and I'm going to be honest. This is the issue I think that was going to make it or break it for me, whether I was going to continue or not. Yeah. So I'm glad that it really hit that mark.
Mm-hmm. really quick, I know you didn't get this one. It's Scout. It's called Triskel.
Mm-hmm.
This book is like this really weird fantasy sci-fi, but it uses a lot of like Celtic lore. It's a really beautiful book, but I found myself getting bored at moments, but it's really, really beautiful. I liked it. The artwork carries it for me, kind of the same way that we talked about Aquaman Andromeda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, it's very, very beautiful, but I couldn't tell you more details other than like it's a weird, I don't know. Anyways.
Weird book.
Yes. Okay. What else you got?
I think that's all that I have for... Oh no, I lied. There was another, not number 1.
Okay.
We got the final issue of The Closet, number 3, from Image Comics and James Tiny Onion. The Closet, also known as The Little Freak in the Closet. That should be the new title of the book, The Little Freak in the Closet. I'm conflicted. First of all, that cover's fucking horrible. I hate that cover. It's terrifying. Gives me nightmares. I hate it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the fucking ventriloquist doll from fucking Goosebumps.
Oh,
That's why I
Goosebumps.
don't like it. I've just unlocked childhood trauma. Thank you. So this fucking series, a lot of people hate this fucking series. I'm here to be the fucking minority. I kind of fucking liked The Closet. I just wish it wasn't a 3-issue miniseries. I wish it was one of those weird Aftershock oversized fucking issues.
Like a big one shot.
Like a big one shot. That's what this book should have been, because the fucking lesson learned is the little freaks in the closet were really us all along.
In the same way that I just talked about Ice Cream Man, where like the real horror is life. What I got from this is that, okay.
The real horror is being a bad fucking father.
100%. Like this book, I know I said it with issue 1, but like, straight people, are you okay? Because the main storyline of this is just the main character and his wife are moving out to Portland, which like, no, thank you. Portland has enough white people. I say that as a white person in Portland. We are at maximum capacity. Anyways, this book mostly features a main character, the husband, who's kind of a shitty husband, and they move out to Portland. Shitty dad. They move out to Portland because the wife gets a new job, and they're like, okay, let's move out there. That'll fix our relationship. And you see the young child who's like haunted, but I don't think that they're actually haunted by the thing in the closet. I think the thing in the closet becomes their friend.
So you're telling me the little freak was wasted?
I think that the little freak was the friend, because we see the little freak in the closet show up whenever the parents are like fighting. And so like literally, and I don't necessarily want to spoil it, but we see the parents get into an argument yet again. And then the little kid like goes back to the closet, and it's almost like the little freak in the closet is its best friend and like just wants to give him a hug and console.
Do I want to jump? I kind of want to jump into spoiler territory with this one.
Okay, spoiler for The Closet, so mute us.
So I really like the twist of this book, and that's why I'm like, everybody's talking about how much they hated it, and I feel like the consensus is this did not need to be a 3-issue series. It could have been a one shot, could have been an original graphic novel, whatever. Could have been a fucking novella, for all I care. So you touched upon, the father moving out to Portland. We find out that, he's a shitty dad. He does nothing but complain that ever since his fucking son was born, he doesn't actually get to be a person. He doesn't have any time for himself. And it's like, again, straight people, are you fucking okay? But we also learn that he's had this affair at some point. And it's in issue 3 that we learn that the monster in the closet is him, because he kept all of these trinkets from his affair and kept all of these mixtapes. And it's like, again, straight people, you good. But he kept all this shit, but he hid it in the fucking bottom of his son's closet. And one night, his son woke up to find his father in the closet and thought that he was a monster. And I'm like, that's really interesting to me, that your little secret is what created the monster, and that it was you that are the little freak the whole fucking time. And that's where I'm like, damn, is this a sign of brilliancy? it's kind of brilliant, but again, straight people, you good? I don't know. I have a lot of. I went into this book thinking I was gonna fucking hate it.
Yeah.
But then we get to that ending, and I'm like, that's kind of neat. I kind of like that. It's a good storytelling. It's a good metaphor, I guess, for the little freak. But the little freak should come back because, again, the little freak is probably the most terrifying fucking thing I've ever seen in a form of media ever.
Yeah. It was a good book.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Is it I don't know. I think it, to me, it kept trying to like give the main character, who's a shitty character, like the redemption arc, and like explaining, well, this is why I had the affair, and like this is why. So it kept trying to like make him the good person, and I think that, like, I don't know, kind of yes, but no. It was still really good, but you're right. It didn't. If Image does like I hope that they just do like a $9.99 trade for it.
Or not, it's being released as a $17.99 trade.
Okay, Image.
Okay, Image.
All right. Any other non-issue number ones that you have?
Nope. Everything. Okay. Everything. Oh no, I lied.
You lied.
I lied. Public Domain number 2. Again, it's just really fucking solid. It's a really great commentary on the comic book industry, especially with, you know, these big properties like the MCU and, you know, Warner Brothers and all the merchandise, and the fact that we still aren't paying our creators shit. And you get this, it's just a really good fucking but sad book. And I'm
like with the family drama, like I feel like that's kind of what I like, is like
this family drama. The fact, I mean, you can see glimpses of Jack Kirby in it, where it's like he spent so much time creating this stuff that he kind of neglected his family and his wife. And I'm like, oh fuck, this book is really personal, and I'm feeling attacked, even though I know it's not about me, but me as a consumer, I feel like I need to be doing better.
Yes.
My only real comment on this story, other than it's good, fucking read it, especially if you're a comic fan, like you have to be reading this book. I'm hoping that we get to see some like back matter material, either in the trade itself, maybe in further issues. I want to see Chip Zdarsky or anybody. I'll fucking do it. You want me to fucking write that goddamn afterword or whatever it's called? I'll fucking do it. I need somebody to stand on the soapbox and be like, pay your fucking creators livable wages, give them benefits, give them the fucking rights to some of their characters in a literal sense. I need to see these big companies, Marvel and DC, being called the fuck out.
And I think this is Chip Zdarsky's way of doing it. 100%. This is about the comic book industry. So it does get like wordy at times, but it's weird that, yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, I think the family drama and like those things really, the characters, even though I couldn't even tell you the characters' names off the top of my head, just the dialogue between them.
It's great. I mean, one thing, last thing I'll talk about before, and then we'll move on, is, you know, this whole book is about getting, you know, the rights back to your characters. So our main character is, you know, at a law firm office all day trying to like negotiate that shit and figure out the legality of it all. And he comes home to find his wife has left him a note being like, the dinner is in the usual spot. And he checks he checks the microwave because you think that's where dinner is going to be left for you. He checks the oven, he checks the table, he checks the fridge, and he ends up going downstairs to the basement where he has his big artist office set up, and it's sitting there on, you know, the table. And it's because we find out through a little flashback page, he again would spend so much time neglecting his family that his wife would bring him down dinner. And it's like that moment alone was like, ooh, when you
realize that like that's how much you've neglected your family. Yeah.
You know, and it makes you realize too that everything that's happening with these comic creators isn't just happening to the creators, it's happening to their families.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is a good book. Not enough people are talking about it. I need more people to talk about it, and then I need more people to read it.
Well, that's why we're here, right?
That's why we're here.
So I've got a couple more, but like this is literally my stack of number ones for the last 3 weeks for just indie. So really quick, going through it. Something is Killing the Children. Once again, it's a good book, but I feel like it's going back to like the Erica Slaughter days, which I like, but at the same time I'm just like I need a little bit more. Um Begrudgingly, I did not like this first issue. I don't necessarily like the second book, and I should. Sins of the Black Flamingo, I keep being told is really good, and I'm just not digging it, and I'm sorry.
The art is great, but it's not a good book.
Like, I should really love this, like...
How is this not for us? This should be made for us. And it's not.
I'm sorry. Okay, one that is for me, Philadelphia. I love it. It's so good. Things are heating up. Things are clearly getting pretty intense. And just continues. Even issue 20, 24, still just is a really great series, and I never want Rodney Barnes to stop. Last one, issue number 4 of Twig. I think there's only one more issue left. It's adorable. If you like Kanto, which a lot of people really loved Kanto this last year, you should be reading Twig. It is adorable. It's wholesome. It's like very Jim Henson-y. I really love it. Okay, now issue number 1s.
We're being asked, what's the best number 1 you have all read recently? I can't speak for Jennifer, but I'm going to speak for myself. There's 3 number 1s in here that are the best issues. At best, there are 3. Hold on, my brain's not working again. We're going into goldfish brain mode. There are 3 number 1s that came out throughout the past 3 weeks that are probably the best first issues that I have read recently.
I've got 3 that I think were like really, really solid, and then a couple that are like runners up.
Do we just go for it? Do we just talk about a really, really good one right off the bat?
Yeah.
Do we do the one?
Yeah.
We do the one.
So here's the thing is that, like, when this book came out 3 weeks ago, I messaged you and I'm like, how the fuck do I like this book? How did this writer... I think that it was a ghostwriter. I'm not
It's
convinced.
a ghostwriter. It's 100% it's ghostwriter. It's a ghostwriter. So, you just went and spread it. I was going to preface it.
Sorry.
So, IDW announced recently that they were starting to dip their toe into creator-owned stuff. IDW, for lack of a better word, has been kind of like this property shill where they're publishing like My Little Pony, Transformers, the Godzilla comics.
Yeah.
They didn't really have a lot of... They were an indie publisher, so to speak, but they didn't have a lot of indie books under their belt. And they announced that it was going to change. They had revealed like 6 or 7 books that they were going to be releasing over the past year. This one being the first issue. And there was a big groan from both of us because of the writer attached to it, which is a big boy named Scott Snyder. Which, listen, I have no bad ill towards Scott. I have personally met Scott. He's a very nice, chill dude. One of the nicest men probably in fucking comics.
Isn't really saying a lot, though.
I just don't fuck with your work. I don't know if it's just because it's sometimes it feels too edgy. A lot of times it's too fucking wordy. It's not the vibe for me. And I get it. Not everybody's going to enjoy your work. I can ruefully admit it. I didn't enjoy it. This fucking book. And what was the book? We didn't tell people what the name of the book was.
It's called Dark Spaces Wildfire. And
it's so fucking good.
It's essentially about this group of female firefighters, but they're not actually
convicts.
Like firefighters.
They're like a chain gang.
They're convicts, and it is like you're allowed to like convicts who don't have necessarily like overtly like criminal violent
if they're not violent offenders, they are allowed to be firefighters for 2 cents a day. But, and I want to say this because I'm kind of mad. This is the one thing I'm going to say about Scott is I wish he had fucking said something in this book. Those individuals who are firefighters in prison, men, women, doesn't matter. You are not allowed to be a firefighter once you get outside and once you have served your time, which I call bullshit. You're trained in it. You've put in the time, the effort, and you may even, a lot of these people end up having the passion for it, but you cannot fucking be a firefighter once you leave prison. And I feel like Scott Snyder needed to put something in there.
I agree. I mean, I could have a whole conversation about how we need to abolish the U.S. prison system anyways, but I'm here to talk about comics. This book, like I went into this, I only picked this up because Hayden Sherman's artwork. And
I only picked it up because it was a new number 1.
this book is just, it's beautiful. The conversations that it has, the where it does kind of talk about, I would say a little bit of that conversation of, um, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. So, like we said, it's about a group of convicts who are firefighters, and they are going through and they're basically risking their lives to help save people's homes, when the homes that they are saving are like rich people, millionaires with like a huge home. Well, one of the convicts, I think it's the leader, they all kind of have criminal backgrounds, but it's like, I know how to break into people's houses. Let's go break into these mega mansions
and steal their Bitcoin,
steal their stuff. Like, I know that there's a computer in there that's like harvesting Bitcoin. Let's just get in there. And so that's what they plan to do. And like, this should not be one of my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite book.
Weird. It's like weird because it has Paper Girls vibes to it without being Paper Girls. I don't know if it's just that like camaraderie of like these this like merry band of misfits that are like, hey, we're gonna commit crimes, and then you got the colorful artwork that gives it Paper Girls vibes. It's just so interesting, and there's a hook and a twist. I'm not gonna spoil it because it was one of those things that made my mouth drop, because there's a word for it. I can't think. It's medias res. Medias res. That's the word I'm looking for. Where the end of the story is the beginning of the story. So when you find out what the beginning and the end is, it's like, I know how this is going to end, but I still want to experience the journey.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm going to be grabbing this like issue by issue. It was so good.
It was good. It was probably one of the best single issues I have read in a while, and I think it's heightened and elevated because it's from somebody I didn't expect.
Agreed. What else you got?
Let's talk about a number one that was just kind of average, I guess, and that was The Brother of All Men.
I don't even think I finished that one.
The Brother of All Men is published by Aftershock Comics. It's done by Zach Thompson, which you're a huge fan of, with books like I Breathe the Body and Lonely Receiver.
I think that's why I didn't love this one, and I didn't even finish it. Maybe I needed to, because maybe there's something in it. But like, those books were so powerful for me, and this one did not do any of that for me.
This book is weird because the premise of it sounds like it should be interesting, but unfortunately, especially in the beginning, it's very slow and very boring, where it's essentially this brother who has returned from war. He has suffered some bodily injuries. His brother has gone missing. He is now on the search to find his brother, but while he's trying to find his brother, he's also taking on some other missing persons cases. He then gets himself involved with a cult and finds out that his brother is part of this weird cult. And so he in turn joins the cult to kind of uncover the mystery. And it sounds cool on paper, but it's bogged down by very bland artwork, very muddy colors, and a very just boring. It's not engaging, unfortunately.
I needed better character design. Like, I needed the characters to stand out for me, and it didn't. I'm really afraid that I know this is going to be kind of a harsh statement, so I apologize. But as someone who really likes Zach Thompson's work, like the titles that you just mentioned, this one made me afraid that Zach Thompson is going to be the next Cullen Bunn. I like Cullen Bunn. I think Cullen Bunn is an excellent horror writer, but I think that Cullen Bunn gets just spread way too thin, and all of the stories start to sound the same. Now, this one is obviously different than Lonely Receiver and I Breathed a Body, which were more like technological horror, like Black Mirror episodes. Mm-hmm. This one wasn't, and this is my least favorite Zach Thompson thing that I've read. So I don't know if I just need to like read it all at once, if I just need to not read this one. Zach Thompson, I love. This I did not. Sorry.
I think I'm going to give it at least one more issue, because towards the end I started to get a little bit invested, and I'm curious to see where it goes. But I think it's going to be one of those, if there's too many books for that week, I'm not going to read it. And if I don't really love issue 2, I'm not going to go any further than that.
Agreed. Another one by Aftershock. I don't know if you got this one, but The Vineyard.
Oh, I missed that one. That was on my list and I missed it.
So this one, I mean, I kind of have like differing opinions about it. I think it's a great start to a horror story. It's basically about this woman who, I guess her husband dies. They own a vineyard, and the vineyard is like dedicated to Bacchus. So they end up having to like murder people to like sacrifice. So it's a pretty interesting horror story, and then it gets involved in like family stuff.
Yeah.
Where they basically have to start like they have to sacrifice so many people a year, and then she chooses not to, so then like the son has to sacrifice someone.
Hmm.
I don't know if I think this one easily could have been one of the Aftershock oversized one
One shots.
but I don't know, maybe it's done by Brian Hawkins, who did Black Cotton by Scout.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see.
I'll have to pick that one up because I totally missed that one. There were so many number ones. I'm looking at the list. I'm just like, it never ends. The Dead Lucky number 1 from Image Comics. This book was very weird, but at the same time, I felt like I had read it already.
It is basically about this vet who dies, and then they end up becoming a superhero.
Superhero with mechs. It feels.
I have Brian Higgins. This is a Power Rangers.
You took it out of my mouth. I was like,
Sorry.
This is like a really weird combination of these 3 titles.
Power Rangers, Radiant Black, and whatever the fuck else, what's his name is doing.
That's not what I was gonna say, but go
Sorry.
for it.
I didn't love it.
It feels like a weird combination of Homesick Pilots, Radiant Black, and that Fox and the Hare book that we just got from Book Comics.
Also, Joy Operations by Brian Michael Bendis.
Ooh, a little bit. It feels like it's already been done before. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. If I'm being quite honest with you, it starts off really fucking slow and is not engaging until about halfway through. But once it starts to get engaging, again, it's a matter of I've already seen this before.
Yep.
And it has a really weird social commentary to it that just does not work. And listen, y'all know I love fucking social commentary in my comic books.
Yeah.
There is one that I will be talking about soon that has a lot of motherfucking social commentary, but this did not work. And it felt like they were just trying to use the commentary as leverage and as like a plot device because they didn't have a plot for themselves.
Yeah.
Does that mean I feel mean?
No, that is 100%.
I feel mean. It was boring. It was average.
I know that I texted you and told you to get this book, but I don't know if you did or not. Did you get a chance? It's Source Point, so Little Red Ronin.
No, I didn't.
It was adorable. It was like Agretsuko. Is that
Agretsuko?
Agretsuko. It reminded me of that, but like if Peach Momoko had done it.
Oh, now I want this book.
I absolutely loved it. It was a lot of fun. It's like this little like panda girl, and she just like rages out. And
so it's me. It's me.
Yeah, I really don't know how else to describe this book other than Agretsuko. I'm sorry. What is it?
Agretsuko.
Agretsuko meets Peach Momoko. It was delightful. I really enjoyed it. It was really cute. And it also reminded me a little bit of like Good Boy in a way. It's got like anthropomorphic characters. So yes, pick it up, please.
Pick it up. See, when you said I texted you about this book, did you pick it up? I thought you were going to talk about another book called a little book called Golden Rage from Image Comics because you were like, Mars, it's Granny Fight Club.
Granny Fight Club.
I wouldn't call it Granny Fight Club though. This is not Granny Fight Club at all. This is oh my god, this book. I started reading it. I'm like, this is a book. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, this is a fucking book. And how do I describe it? So that's the weird thing is like, I want to talk about this book, but we know so little about it, which I think is brilliant because it sprinkles world building, without giving you any world building. And it's like, if you want to find out more, I guess you're going to have to keep fucking reading. So the premise of this book, at least from what we're given, is there is this island of old women.
And once you get to a certain age, you're sent there.
Once you get to a certain age, you're sent there. And essentially what is kind of revealed is like once you hit menopause and you're no longer deemed as quote unquote useful, you're thrown onto this island where it's essentially like a Lord of the Flies free for all situation. We have these tribes of elderly women that are fighting against one another. We're introduced to this group of women who have been banded together for a long time. And it's essentially like a fish out of water story because we have a 30-year-old who is dumped onto the island who obviously does not fit the criteria of being an elderly woman, but because she has early onset menopause, she, has to be on the island. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't realize that people could get menopause as early as 30. And listen, I just turned 29 this year. So if menopause wants to come through on my 30th birthday, I will gladly welcome that shit. Please and thank you. But it's just really interesting. And I want to know more about why there's this island. Why are these women fighting each other? Why aren't they teaming up together? I also love the idea that they take like classic like old lady tropes, like, oh, the crazy cat lady. Oh, there's knitting needles in there. Like, oh, we're going to make you food and make sure that you have enough to eat. Like, it takes all of those fucking tropes. This is the feminist icon book that we fucking need. Like, I feel like Ma tried to do something like this, but couldn't fucking hit that niche without being fucking offensive or triggering. Whereas as Golden Rage, just like, here's this island of fucking grandmas that both want to take care of you and kill you, and it's a battle royale free for all.
Yes, just battle royale is 100% it. And you mentioned
book.
You mentioned the social commentary, and like the thing that I like that kind of makes it relevant is that, from what I understand, all these old ladies are on this island, and they're fighting each other, but then they're also being hunted. So like they're being hunted by this group called the Red Hats.
The Red Hat ladies.
Yeah. I don't know. So part of me was like, wait, is that the like old ladies that like dress in purple and wear red hats?
That's what I was thinking.
But I was also thinking, is it the like Trump cult people? But I guess
is there really a difference?
No, maybe yes, because I feel like I don't know. So
is there really a difference?
The purple dress red hat ladies make a lot more sense. Now that I think about it,
but it could be like a metaphor for the Trump. I didn't think about that. Now that I've thought about that, I'm like, shit.
Anyways, this book is really good, and I really
hope fucking solid. I'm gonna be honest. I'm surprised this is an image book. I could see this coming from Boom.
Boom, yeah.
This feels like a Boom book, not an image book.
Yeah, and that's a compliment right now.
That is a compliment right now. Is Image good again? Is Image good again?
The baddies. So anyways, everyone please go out and buy Golden Rage.
Please buy Golden Rage. Golden Rage is so fucking good. It's not even funny. It's so
good. Really quick, I don't know if you got this one. It's by Oni. It's done by Chris Sabella. Blink.
Why wouldn't I read Blink by it's Chris Sabella, my dude. Of course I read it.
Sorry, go on.
I have a lot of feelings about this book. So I often talk about first issues being way too fucking slow in their pacing, and they don't grab me. This book was way too fucking fast. This book, I read, so I always, especially with these indie books, because sometimes I don't remember what the indie book's supposed to be about. So I usually read like the previews little thing, and I'm like, all right, refresh my memory. What is this book about? What am I getting into? And I read the premise. I'm like, yo, this is going to be a good fucking book.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's probably going to be a slow burn. I'm going to have to wait. This book drops you right fucking into it. It's like, hey, the premise of this book is there's a woman who was adopted at the age of 3. She was found on the street covered in blood, doesn't remember anything about her childhood. And I'm like, fuck. I've never seen it, but I know of the horror movie Martyrs, which is one of the grossest, goriest, pieces of shit. Unless you want to vomit, do not watch this movie. I've watched YouTube commentary about this movie and have still vomited. How people watch this movie, I have no idea, but it gives a Martyrs vibe where it's like there's this back rooms underground fucking thing with experiments and all this other weird shit, and this child somehow escaped. And because they were so young, they didn't know if this actually happened, if these back rooms were real. Is it a figment of my imagination? This character has PTSD and trauma, and, you know, there's a lot of fucking things that this could attribute to. And then one day they are given information that, hey, this shit exists, and it's that being dragged back into your horrors type story, and it's weird.
This character has already like become obsessed. Obviously there's a lot of trauma, so like we see that with the character, and they're like, I need to find out, and they're about to find out.
This, I will say, this book is interesting. It's very good, but again, this book is 0 to 100. You would expect that this book would end with, I've gotten this tape or this email or letter, whatever the fuck it is that they get. You would think that this book would end on, hey, come to the back. I'm going to call them the back rooms because that's all I can really phrase it as right now. Come see these back rooms. Hey, they're real. Figure out your past. No, this book, within 5 pages, we're in the back rooms. We're seeing that this is real. We're seeing that it's fucking scary. And it ends on an even scarier note. I'm just like, all right, we're not pumping brakes here.
And I do have to say, the artwork is also done by Hayden Sherman.
It is.
And this is probably the least Hayden Sherman artwork looking book, but it makes it work.
Because it's terrifying and it's gritty and it's dark.
Yeah.
But it's not dark where, you know, we talked about Brothers of All Men, where it was dark and muddy. This is dark because it's a fucking terrifying thing. This, if you're into like things like dark web, back rooms, conspiracies, shit like that, this is the type of book that's gonna leave you shocked.
If you like Department of Truth, I would say this book is for you. But yeah. I know you don't like Department of Truth.
I don't like Department of Truth, so it's weird. But if you like that vibe of books like that, like these Black Mirror-esque stories, Blink is for you.
It surprised me that this was the Chris Sabella book, and that Brother of All Men was...
Why is this book published by Oni? We're supposed to be on an Oni strike right now.
Yeah. This book really surprised me that it was Chris Sabella, and this was the Zach Thompson book.
Yeah. Because Chris Sabella, I don't think, has done a ton of horror. Chris Sabella does really weird books. He's done Heartthrob. He's done Crowded. He did, what was the one ghost? The Scumbag. Like Dirtbag Rapture. Dirtbag Rapture, which was also Oni Press. Also, Chris Sabella, please blink if you need to be rescued from Oni Press, because those are 3 books that are published by Oni. And I will save you personally because I love you so much.
So anyways, Blink was really good.
Blink was fucking good. There's a lot of good number ones, man.
One other book that I got that I really did like, it's called She Bites. Sorry, I don't know if you got it. Scout.
She Bites. She Bites. Oh, baby. Oh, she bites. She bites. It's the spooky version of She Bangs. The goth version of She Bangs.
Did you get a chance to read this one?
No, I didn't.
Okay. It was really good. It's about this young girl vampire who's like hundreds of years old, but she can't do shit because she's really young. So she has to hire a babysitter to take care of her so she can actually like function in the real world. And so it reminds me a little bit of Scotty Young's I Hate Fairyland, but then I forget the character in Anne Rice's novel. So that's what it reminds me of, and I really liked it. It was cute.
Who published this?
Scout.
Which means you're not going to get a second issue for at least 5 months.
Yeah. I really liked this one a lot.
That's why I don't get invested in Scout comics anymore, because King's Vengeance, which came out in November of last year, I fucking loved it. Do we have King's Vengeance 2 yet? No.
Okay, so I've got 3 more, and I know which one we're going to talk about last.
Nice. Did you read Did you read Rogues Gallery?
I did.
I could not finish it.
I loved it.
I wanted to like this book so fucking bad. And I'm like, listen,
I loved it.
this book is like terrifying because I'm like, I could see people fucking really doing this shit. And I wanted to lean more into the horror aspect of it. And it didn't. And that's where I'm mad.
I went into this not knowing anything about it. And you're right. It definitely has that, like, this could happen in the real world, especially considering like how we talk every week. It's about this like TV show franchise that is like really
Like
popular.
a Buffy type thing.
Oh, see, I saw it more of like a Game of Thrones type thing.
Buffy, Game of Thrones, something that's like long running and like
okay.
Cult concept.
And so one of the characters in the book she's a female. She plays one of the main characters, and fanboys seem to hate her because they don't see her as like a real fan. And then she ends up, because she has money, ends up buying a piece of that like fandom's, like either a first issue or like something, a holy grail of that fandom. And then this group of people go to steal it from her because they don't see that she's like worthy of having it. And then she fucking comes at them.
Yeah.
I loved this book a lot.
I wanted to love it more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll give it another chance because, like I said, I only got about halfway through before I gave up on it. And I tried reading it 1 or 2 times, and finally, I don't know if it was just wrong place, wrong time, put a bad taste in my mouth. I was like, I'm not even going to give it a third shot. Maybe I'll give it another try, and we'll circle back with issue 2 in a month.
This book also reminded me of Kyle Starks in the way that the conversations between the like group.
Why are you doing this to me?
Because it's less about like her and like, you know, what she's done. It's about them doing the heist.
Yeah.
Which I liked. So anyways, that's how I get Mars to read a book.
That's how you get me to read a book.
Any other book that you got?
Only the one left. So I'm curious as to what your other one is.
AWA did this book called Sacrament. It's done by Peter Milligan, who just does really weird stuff.
Really fucking weird shit.
And so this book is basically like a priest in like what, 2300 or 30, anyways, way in the way future. He's in the way future. There's a haunting, but then like priests are outlawed. I would normally not like a book like this because I don't like the religious aspects of it, but it works really well. And it reminded me of like, I'm trying to think of the horror film. Is it Black Hole or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
weird
I really liked it. It was good. The artwork is just like, it's weird. It's sci-fi-y. They're hopping planets doing exorcisms.
Huh.
Yeah. Really good. Event Horizon. That's the one I'm thinking of. Event Horizon. Okay. So it's really good. Sacrament. Pick it up if you like weird sci-fi shit like I do. Okay. There's one last book.
Bro, was this my favorite book of the week?
It was. I think it was one of mine.
This I wasn't even gonna read this book, and I opened it, and I'm like, right off the bat, I'm like, all right, so this is what we're fucking doing. I'm in for the ride. I'm in for a fun time, not a long time. Let's fucking pump the brakes. Let's not pump the brakes, and let's just go fucking full balls to the wall. Survival Street by Dark Horse Comics. Survival Street #1. Jen has left me. Oh, fuck. Now I gotta do this by myself. All right. So, you want to talk about a book having social commentary and getting fucking political and basically ripping our modern society apart, and look no further than fucking Survival Street. Am I right? Okay, you're agreeing with me. You're still muted, but you're agreeing with me.
Sorry.
So,
yeah, sorry that I'm muted. Yes.
This book opens right off the bat with pages of black that you expect from like a really weird, gritty, like sci-fi horror movie where it's like, in the year 20 blah blah blah, government has changed where now anybody can run for office. 4 years later, corporations are now buying up literally fucking everything to take control of everything. And then in whatever year after that, they're like, by the way, all public access programs are fucking shut down. So PBS Sesame Street, because this is basically Sesame Street gone bad. Fuck you, you're canceled. And this book is literally how do I explain this without, because the entire time I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck is happening? Is this book of the year? Is this the best thing I've ever read in my entire life? How is this Dark Horse? How did this get published? It's literally this rogue band of Sesame Street fucking characters who are like, we've had it up to here with your goddamn bullshit. We're here to kill capitalist pigs and to be fucking terrorists, but good terrorists. So what's the word I'm looking for? Like not a what's the opposite? Not a refugee, not a rogue band of. There's a word I'm looking for. It's fucking gone.
Yeah, I don't want to say like terrorist or anything like that, but like
there's a word, not freedom fighter, but there's a word for freedom fighter that I'm looking for that I can't. Yeah. I can't fucking cause it either way. So yeah, this book is insane. They literally, the first whole issue is these crusty ass white men selling children to harvest their organs for a tax break, and these Muppet motherfuckers are rescuing the children.
They're the real Avengers. Like, that's what they're doing.
And there's one fucking character who is clearly goddamn Cookie Monster, and I lost my mind. I'm just gonna spoil it right now because it's the funniest thing that ever happened. So these Muppets are working together to like pull off this rescue and rescue these children. And of course they all have these roles aside for them. And our one character is Cookie Monster, but with ice cream. And like, that's the other thing is like, you get character introductions for all these like Sesame Street characters that are obviously toys off of like Oscar the Grouch and Cookie Monster and Miss Pig. No, that's Muppets. I don't fucking know. It's been a while since I watched Sesame Street. But the one character is like, you know, an ice cream addict, and it's been 72 days since her last scoop. But then something happens where somebody's wheeling out a dessert cart, and they're like, oh, it's just pie, you're safe. And then they're like, JK, it's a la mode. And it's just this fucking Muppet going insane over fucking ice cream and killing everybody in the room. This book is funny as shit.
It is.
Also gives, I love political shit. That's why Run the Jewels is my favorite. I love when shit gets fucking political. You've got like Florida bought to you by Pornhub, and I'm like, this book is fucking insane. They have a lot to say, and they don't give a fuck who it offends. But it's like it gives this social commentary without being cringy, without being I don't want to say over the top because it's fucking Muppets killing people. So that's pretty over the top. This is so much fun. This is I'm going to make a pun here. It's going to be really bad. This is the Dark Horse of comics.
What do you mean the Dark Horse of comics? Oh, got it.
Because you don't expect it. And it's a fucking Dark Horse, but it's published by Dark Horse. That's my pun for the day. I'm really proud of that, by the way. Please laugh. Please clap.
You said everything. This book is great.
I literally texted you. This was the last book I read. And I texted you this morning. And I'm like, did you read this fucking book? Because I can't believe I just read it.
I'm really glad that I didn't know anything about this book going in. Because if someone had told me it's like Muppets, but extreme violence.
Extremists. That's the word I'm looking for. They're extremists. I need in the fucking trade, I need the pitch for this book to be included. Yes. Because I just need to know what the editors of Dark Horse experienced when this book was pitched to them. And I want to see how they greenlit this book because it is fucking nuts.
It is.
It was so good, guys. Survival Street, not to be confused with, they call it Sensational Street, which I guess Sesame Street, Sensational Street. Yeah. It's this book is so good. I can't wait to see how this book is going to get weirder and weirder, and I can't wait for it. And the covers are fucking great. Like the variants for it are great, and I'm just like, this is a good book. Read
I love
Survival Street, please. What a good fucking week for comics. That's
It was
three fucking weeks of comics. Almost 3 hours of comics. Y'all have stuck with us for a long time now. We should probably release you and free you. Before we do you have anything?
No.
Any final thoughts? Any words of advice? It's a lot of fucking comics, dude.
It is. Going, my biggest thing is just everyone go read your comics.
Go read your comics. The only thing that I kind of want to leave off on before we sign off, we've gotten a lot of questions about the YouTube memberships and the super chats, and we've done a lot of research and talked to people, and we're going to make a bigger announcement about it next week, but we're still on YouTube. We're kind of shifting. We're still obviously. We're kind of shifting away from the idea of YouTube memberships and chats and super chats. We are in the process of launching a Patreon for all of our members. Anybody who wants to be a part of the Casually Comics crew. It's in the works right now and will be released, hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully the Patreon for the channel will go live next week. So we'll have more information for that at the start of our show next week. But I just kind of want to drop it in there to make you guys prepared and all that fun stuff.
Because like you said, people have been asking, and hopefully we'll have that all sorted out.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Well, thank you everyone for being here for almost 3 hours. We really appreciate it. We had a lot of books to talk about, so we'll see you.
It was a lot of fun. It's good to be back.
Good to be back, and we'll see you all next Sunday.